My best friend throws a party while I'm away and destroys my apartment, as this guy trashes my place in a way I've never seen before. And despite the fact that I've literally been letting this guy live with me for free, I decided right there on the spot when I got back that this guy is out of here, because I literally packed this guy's bags for him and kicked him out of my place that night. And now, with all things considered, I'm wondering if maybe I jumped ahead of myself, and honestly, if I did, I'm not sure how to fix this. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things out, I'm a 22-year-old male, and I recently graduated from college. I allowed a friend I met while in college, who's like 1 year below me, to stay in my apartment with me. And just for a bit of background context, I moved from Colorado over to Ohio for college. Here, I found a 2-bedroom apartment that I've been living in by myself for the last year after my old roommate moved out. I worked while in school, and I got a pretty good deal on the place, so I decided to keep it. This past year, I let my friend, who we will call Tyler, move in. I didn't charge him rent or really make him pay for much besides his own food, because I was just trying to help out. For graduation, I went back home for a few days to visit family and to celebrate, and before I left, I told Tyler no crazy parties. Please keep the place clean and don't do anything stupid while I'm gone. Not that I don't trust him, but I just appreciate having a clean home, and he knows this. Well, when I got back, I was honestly disgusted. Trash was overflowing, the dishes piled in the sink, laundry was all over the couch, and the bathroom connected to my bedroom had crap in it. Like, you literally have to walk through my room to use that bathroom too. And that's honestly when I completely lost it. He was still at class when I got back, so I started throwing his stuff into trash bags and just putting them out by the front door. At that point, it wasn't even about the mess anymore. It was just about the disrespect. Like, I let this dude stay with me basically for free, and he treated my apartment like a dump. By the time he got back, most of his stuff was already packed. He started asking me what I was doing, and I just told him to go look at the bathroom and just at the rest of the apartment. He then started saying that finals week had him stressed out. He's been really busy and had some people over while I was gone. But honestly, I don't care. Regardless if it was him or his friends, he was still responsible for what happened to the apartment. I then told him he needed to figure out somewhere else to stay. And at first, I don't think he thought it was serious. But once he realized I had already packed his stuff, his whole attitude changed. He started apologizing and offering to clean everything. But at that point, I was already done with the situation. Now, part of me did feel bad because we had become pretty good friends at this point. But another part of me just kept thinking that if this is how he acts after I helped him out, then it probably wasn't going to get any better from here. So eventually, later that night, one of our friends came by and helped him move his stuff out. When he left, I stayed up cleaning because I couldn't even relax with the apartment looking like that. And now that it's all said and done, I still go back and forth on whether I overreacted. I honestly feel like I'm a jerk for how I jumped to like kicking him out right away, but at the same time, I really don't feel like I was asking for much. So am I the jerk in this situation? Because I'm not sure if I made a mistake or not. And if I did, I don't really know how to fix it. Okay, in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk, but in some ways, I think you could have done this a little bit cleaner, if you know what I mean. Like, for me, it sounds like this was a good roommate. You had absolutely no problem with him living there. He was more or less carrying his weight, and he was treating you with respect, and you guys were like pretty good friends for the most part. So for me, at least, if this was really like the first big problem I've had with this guy, I would at least expect him to either clean it up or then he really would be kicked out. Like, that would be the litmus test of like, okay, can this guy stay with me or not? But regardless, I don't think you're the jerk at all. Like, Tyler was very clearly using you and taking advantage of a really good situation, and when it mattered the most, he disrespected that situation completely. Like, he literally destroyed the place and made it a pigsty, even though you told him, hey, don't do that. So yeah, I think you kicking him out is completely understandable, especially if I feel like it was a bit premature, because either way, it sounded like he really needed to go. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say. Am I the jerk for not letting a kid into my apartment building who claimed he was locked out, but honestly, I've never seen this kid before in my life? Because after the fact, I honestly am kind of regretting it, and I don't know if I made a mistake or not, and at this point, I don't really know what to do about it. Here's what happened. Okay, so today as I got home from work, a kid I don't really recognize that was maybe like 14 years old approached me as I walked up to my apartment building. He asked me if I lived in the building, and I said maybe because I was kind of sketched out by this, but he then told me that he locked himself out and and his mom wasn't home, and he was happy I showed up to let him in. I then told him I don't let anybody in without keys who I don't recognize into the building. He then asked me why, and I said it's just not safe. Like, there's a reason the apartment building is locked. He then proceeded to follow me to the side door of the building, so I grabbed the door and I pulled it shut behind me because he grabbed it and tried to tailgate me. He pulled on the door, but I was faster, and I got it to lock behind me right away. He then slammed on the door with one of his fists and screamed, "Screw you!" And it scared me a little bit. Even though he was young, he was almost as big as me. I'm sure he would have been able to pull the door open from me if he was expecting me to shut it. Now, it's not too cold or hot outside, like it really is gorgeous weather, and there are several hours of sunlight left. There's also a park with benches in the shade and mothers watching kids within sight of the front door of the building, so he really will have a safe place to be while he's waiting for his mom. Again, he looked like a young teenager and not a kid. There's also a building buzzer in the front, so if he knows anyone in the building, they can let him in, even if his mom isn't home. I've never seen this kid a day before in my life, but I typically ignore the children who play outside because I find them annoying, so there's a good chance I just don't recognize him. It's a safe neighborhood, and most people who live here do unfortunately just hold the doors open for others without like asking or seeing keys. But I gotta be honest, I felt kinda guilty for not letting him in case he was locked out. And he is just a kid, but like at the same time, I have a policy to not let strangers in the building for safety reasons. And you know what? He kinda scared me. So should I have let him in the building? Because now I'm kinda regretting this and I'm not sure what to do. Okay, honestly, the way he reacted to you closing the door in his face was more than enough reason for me to be like, oh yeah, you definitely trusted your gut here. Because you said it yourself, you don't know this kid, you have no prior knowledge of this kid even existing in the area, and he's clearly breaking one of the cardinal rules of living in like an apartment building. You don't just let anybody in. And no, that's not me being the jerk, that's just logical. It takes one person getting broken into for you to realize, oh crap, maybe I should be just a little bit more strict about who I let into my building. Like, my god, it is not that hard. So no, I don't blame you for trusting your gut on this one, dude. Even if that kid did live in that area, or even if like his mom approaches you later or something like that, you can explain to her that, hey, he was being really threatening and weird, and no, I'm not gonna let him in next time. Because obviously this kid had like ulterior motives, or he was planning to maybe do something to you or the building itself, and that seems incredibly sketchy. Am I overreacting for regretting checking my girlfriend's phone? Because what I found on it is making me question our relationship, and at this point I just don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, first of all, I know I did something wrong and I absolutely regret it, but last night we were both a little drunk. For reference, we're on vacation because we traveled to see a concert with some friends of mine, and eventually we started arguing about something that felt really childish to me. She got upset because I left the building for about 5 minutes to pick up some food that we had ordered without kissing her goodbye. What really bothered me wasn't the argument itself, but the feeling that she was looking for reasons to fight. And you know what? Something similar had happened the night before. I couldn't shake the feeling that she was trying to make me feel guilty about my behavior because I felt she was hiding something. I tried talking to her about it, but she wasn't in the right mood for a conversation. So I went back to spending some time with my friends because I was embarrassed that we were having relationship problems for like the second night in a row, all during a trip we're having with them. Fast forward, and when I finally came back to our room, she was asleep. Now, here's the part that I regret the most. I went through her phone. I know it's wrong. I know I should have just respected her privacy, but I felt like I needed to know whether my gut feeling was just completely off or not. Well, I found a lot of men commenting on her pictures. She either ignored them or responded in ways that seemed mostly innocent and didn't really encourage them. However, I also noticed that she had deleted some conversations. Some chats were set to disappear after 24 hours, and what hurt the most was seeing that she still talks to some friends she had previously been intimate with. And trust me, I use the word friends incredibly loosely. The way some of these men talk to her makes me really uncomfortable. They don't seem to respect her as someone in a committed relationship. Some of them even express disappointment that she has a boyfriend right now. As far as I can tell, nothing inappropriate has happened since we've been together, and I haven't found evidence that she's been physically involved with any of them. But what really confuses me is why some conversations were deleted. She is generally very open with me. Sometimes she'll even show me messages from guys who flirt with her and tell me about them herself. So why hide these conversations while being transparent about others? From the very beginning, we've had a lot of conversations about what we want in a relationship. She's very open-minded and has experience with open relationships. I'm also open-minded, although I've never been in one myself. We're both bisexual, and we've discussed the possibility of exploring some level of openness in the future, but only if we're both comfortable with it and fully on the same page. I know she has had had many past partners and experiences, and I never wanted that to affect our relationship because I genuinely wanted to trust her and avoid being judgmental. I felt a strong connection with her and believed that we could build something meaningful together while maintaining honesty, respect, and good communication. I love her, and I believe she loves me too, but now I'm questioning things. The problem is that I don't want to confront her because I know what I did was wrong, but at the same time, I'm struggling to trust her after what I found. I know the easiest answer is probably to walk away, but I really do care about her. We have a vacation planned with my family at the end of July. We've officially been together for about 3 months, although we dated for several months before that. I've actually known her for years, but until recently, neither of us had the opportunity or intention to pursue something serious. I'm feeling really conflicted. I don't want to end things, but I really just can't stop overthinking all of this. So what would you do in my situation? Because I really don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, first off, it's really early on in this relationship. Like, you've only been officially together for like 3 months. So if you did leave, it really wouldn't be that big of a deal. It's not like you've been together for like 3 years or something like that and she's hiding stuff like this. But honestly, this is not a good look. Like, the fact that she's hiding something this early on kind of is a giant red flag that I would refuse to ignore. Like, seriously, this is something I would absolutely like pay attention to and say to myself, yeah, something has got to be going on. Otherwise, she wouldn't be acting this way. And also, I'm just gonna say it first and foremost, and I've said this many times on this channel, I think open relationships are completely stupid. I think that's a great way of ruining the current relationship you have, and it's just like the excuse of being like, I want to sleep with other people with your permission. And guess what? That almost never goes well unless you're like unbelievably secure in your relationship. Like, this has got to be some rock solid status, like otherwise it's gonna fail. So no, I don't think you're overreacting. I think this situation is kind of sketchy, and I know if I was in this situation, I would be questioning my relationship pretty viciously. My boyfriend's best friend has a wife who literally doesn't like me, as she confessed her disdain for me one day when she was drunk while we were all getting together. And now as a result, I don't know what to feel about this lady or my boyfriend's friend. And I'm honestly at a point where I just don't know what to do about this. Here's what happened. Okay, so my boyfriend and I went to a party for his friend who I will call Fred for the sake of the story. When we showed up, people had obviously been drinking and smoking, and because we had shown up just a little bit late, the majority of the people there were like 2 sheets to the wind. At one point, we all went outside. My boyfriend had been trying to convince Fred and his wife, who I will call Daphne, to come on a vacation with us and my boyfriend's other friends, but he hadn't really made any headway, and he's sure that they just don't want to come with us. Daphne then explained that more people would be going, that she and Fred had only met a handful of times, and because the vacation was 5 or more days, it might be a bit awkward for them, as they've only met these other friends a handful of times, which again is totally understandable. At this point, my boyfriend and Fred went inside to do something. Meanwhile, I was carrying on a conversation with Daphne, who was still explaining how they might feel a bit awkward. I then piped up and said, oh, I'll be in the same boat. You should come along, we can be awkward together. At this point, Daphne, who was obviously drunk, let out a laugh and said, well, I don't know if this is bad to say, but like, I probably wouldn't want to associate with you. We can't all be winners, you know? And she just continued snickering from there. And I gotta be honest, that kind of felt like a gut punch, and I really wanted to vomit. She said this in front of another friend that was just listening in on the conversation, who also piped up and said, yeah, no, that is bad to say, all before glancing at me sheepishly. I then went quiet and just let the conversation die off. I understand that I can't control who does or doesn't like me, but it was kind of crappy told straight to your face that you aren't exactly favored. This could be basically chalked up to drunken words, but it hurt my feelings and it made me really uncomfortable. I mean, after all, I was at Fred and Daphne's house without an immediate escape route. Now, I didn't want to be a bummer and asked to leave immediately and ruin my boyfriend's fun, so I stuck it out for an additional 2 hours before asking when we could leave. And thankfully, my boyfriend took it in stride and we ducked out with a few goodbyes. I then told him about what happened in the car. And when I did, I had to talk him down while I told him so that he wouldn't do anything to confront his friend about what she had said to me. And while I refused to be a point of contention between him and his friends, I still figured that I'd mention it just to be safe. But he's now stuck on how disrespectful it was and questions why she faked liking me for as long as she did. In my opinion, she probably won't even remember she said anything, but her words are sticking with me. Granted, they didn't make a ton of sense, but the message on her not being keen on me was delivered loud and clear. I don't plan on addressing it, but now I just feel uncomfortable being around her. It's not like I see them too often, so it's not a huge deal, but when I do, I don't want to have to like fake being pleasant for the sake of looks. So am I overreacting here? Because I really just don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, I think there is still a world where like you can interact with them, but it doesn't go any farther than that because I deal with people like that all the time in my personal life, as well as like in my professional life. Dude, I deal with so many different people who are like incredibly fake, who seriously have like the worst things to say about each other, and then turn around and act like they're best friends. Like, it is totally possible. So if you wanted to do that for your boyfriend's sake and he still wanted to like keep in touch with Fred to some extent, you really could show up and still fake it and like pretend to be nice, even if Daphne said while she was drunk that she didn't like you. Like, screw them. In my opinion, the best way to get back at someone is by just destroying them with kindness. Like, if I was in your shoes, I would show up to any social event they're attending so unbothered that it's just not even funny. I would be the life of the party and a social butterfly. Like, literally, no one's gonna keep me down except for me. And you could definitely do the same thing if you just practice it and like determined to do that ahead of time. So no, you're not overreacting. It is completely valid to be upset about this. But if you did want to still be around her, it is totally possible, especially if you view it from like the angle of doing it out of spite. Because Daphne will either like mirror what you're saying or she will internally despise it, which in my opinion is like the best form of revenge you could possibly get. Today, my friends from college literally pressured me into paying for the entire dinner, and the only reason they did this was because they found out I make more money than all of them. And honestly, after I did this, it really made me feel awful, especially when I felt like I was being bullied by friends I've known for years. And at this point, I just don't know what to make of this. Okay, so for a bit of background, I had not really seen my old school friends in about 7 years. We finally organized a proper reunion dinner last weekend, like maybe 8 of us in total, at a nicer than average restaurant. And I was genuinely excited. These were my people back in the day, like I really wanted to see them. Eventually, the conversation drifted to the whole like, oh, so what are you doing now stuff? And somewhere in there, my job came up. I work in finance, and I will be completely honest, I do very well for myself. I comfortably do more than anyone else at the table, and it became pretty obvious as everybody shared. Nobody was rude about it exactly, but the vibe definitely shifted. When the bill comes along, it's a decent chunk of money, and one of them says, half jokingly, well, maybe you should be buying, right? I mean, you won't even feel it. And when they said this, everybody laughed. But then they just kind of like kept going. Yeah, come on, it's nothing to you. You earn in a month what we earn in like 4 months. I then said I was happy to cover a bit extra, but not the whole thing. And the table eventually went quiet and got really weird. Now, I ended up paying for everyone because the pressure was unreal, and I didn't want to be that guy at a reunion. Now, look, I don't mind being generous when I offer, but being volunteered for the entire bill because of my salary seriously rubbed me completely wrong. My partner says that I should have just split it evenly like adults and that I let myself get bullied. So what should I have done here? Like, was I overreacting by being offended by this, or should I have really paid for everything? What should I do? Dude, I would never do that to someone. I can't believe your friends actually pulled that card. They really said, oh yeah, you're rich, you can pay for it. Instead of just being like, yeah, I'll pay for my portion. I know if I was at that table, that's what I would have said. I would have been like, oh dude, you don't have to pay for my stuff. I bought my stuff, so I'm gonna pay for it. Instead of just shoveling it on the original poster. Like, that is so rude. Plus, it's completely inconsiderate. Like, dude, you guys are coming together for a reunion. It's been 7 years. This is like the perfect time to give a good impression. Instead of just sitting back and being like, oh yeah, this person's gonna pay for it. So for me, this would kind of be like really hard evidence that, yeah, there's a reason I haven't talked to these people in 7 years. Because instead of like being good friends, they would rather pressure you into paying for everything, all because you make money from the job you clearly earned. Am I the jerk for being mad at my best friend after she started talking to a guy who bullied me for so many years of my life? Because right now I feel betrayed and completely hurt, and at this point I just don't know what to do. I'm an 18-year-old male and my best friend is an 18-year-old female, and we quite literally just graduated high school less than a week ago. Now there's this guy I've known ever since middle school who made my life a living nightmare. Him and his stupid friends constantly mess with me in middle school, to the point where I genuinely hated going to school every single day. It seriously affected my mental health back then. 2 of those guys also went to our high school, including the one this story's about. Even in high school, this guy still kept bothering me. It wasn't always as extreme as middle school, but he would still come up to me at lunch and mess with me. And I just got so tired of it that I'd literally pretend I didn't know him, or even just deny going to the same middle school. Well, today, my best friend texted me freaking out because this guy messaged her. I then jokingly told her to tell him that me and my best friend don't like you, get off my phone, but I wasn't really joking. Instead, Instead, she started calling him to hear him out. She knows how badly this guy treated me, by the way. And when I reminded her, she basically said, well, that was a long time ago, and acted like it wasn't a big deal. But to me, it is a big deal because she wasn't the one dealing with it for years. I told her that I was hurt that she would even entertain him knowing all of the history behind this situation. Part of what really bothers me is that if they did actually end up like talking or dating, then eventually I'm gonna have to be around someone who made my life miserable for so many years. I'm not trying to control who she dates, like it's not like that, but I honestly feel weird and hurt by this entire situation. And at this point, I just don't know what to do. Okay, your friend sucks. I just want to say that first and foremost. This person does not have your best interest in mind. She doesn't care about you, she doesn't care about your suffering, and the fact that she's minimizing this is a giant screaming red flag. Like, my God, who in their right mind would know what you've gone through and then be like, oh, but let's hear the other side of the story. It's like, bro, there's nothing to hear. This guy literally made my life a nightmare. He destroyed any kind of confidence I had. He made me cry in the bathroom. He did all these terrible things. Like, my God, if you've never been bullied in middle school or high school, then count your lucky stars. Because as someone who has been bullied, it is literally the worst thing. I'm not kidding. There were days back in like middle school where I just didn't even want to wake up. Because you know what? I knew when I got there, I was gonna have to fight every single battle that came my way. I was gonna have to hide at certain spots just to avoid this jerk. I was gonna have to sit around certain teachers just to make sure I wasn't messed with. It was humiliating. It was just horrifying. It really, really sucked. So for this original poster to find out that their best friend, the one person they've probably confided to about this guy, is now somehow being like, oh, let's hear this guy out. Let's see his side of the story. Like, that is tragic and so unbelievably toxic. Like, that is such a betrayal. You've probably told her a bunch of stuff about what you went through, but even then, she just doesn't care. She doesn't care at all. So no, you're not the jerk for being mad at your best friend. In fact, this really should be your ex-best friend, especially if she starts talking to this guy. Like, I would withdraw immediately. I would not entertain that for a second because she knows what you went through and still she's trying to like poke in and see what's going on. And that's a level of betrayal that you really do not deserve. My entitled neighbor freaks out on me after I fuss at his kid for literally breaking into my back garden. Things got so bad that this guy threatened to call the police on me, saying that I mistreated his kid and that he was allowed to break into my backyard. And I'm honestly still pissed off about this situation because right now I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of context, I have 4 chickens who live in a cozy coop at the end of my back garden. One of them, by the name of Whiskey, has survived a fox attack, is 8 years old, and is still laying eggs. And we affectionately refer to her as our guard chicken or the snitch because she will scream for us if any intruders, usually squirrels, enter our yard or any other chickens escape. It was a nice sunny Sunday morning and I had my friends over for brunch when I heard Whiskey screaming. And when I looked out the window, I see the neighbor's kid crouched down next to my chicken coop. So I shout out to him, hey, what are you doing? The kid then responds back by saying, I'm just getting my ball back. And I look and see that he's holding 2 balls. I then looked at him and I said, well, get out of my garden. The kid responds by saying, that's not very nice. But I say back to him, well, it's not very nice to break into other people's gardens. At this point, he climbs back into his garden through a gap in the fence at the very back of the garden. Meanwhile, I've gone to knock on their front door to speak to their parents, assuming that they must not know what was happening. So I go up to their door and I say, hi, did you know your son was breaking into our garden? Now, right off the rip, the dad immediately started yelling. He says to me, is it okay what you said to my son? But I responded back by saying what? Telling him that he can't break into our property? The entitled dad then said, he's just a kid. It's okay for him to do that. But I told him, no, he's legally not allowed to do that. I don't want some random kid messing around with my chickens. The dad then said, you threatened my kid. You swore him. But I responded by saying, I never threatened him and I just wanted him off my property. But the dad doubled down and said, it's fine for kids to do that. You know what? I don't have to listen to this. He then goes to slam the door in my face, but stops when I step forward onto their doorstep, but not into their house. I then say to him, well, how would you like it if I broke into your garden? The dad then says again, they're just kids and that it's okay. He then said that I was threatening them, and then he said, call the police. At this point, my unfortunate tendency to cry when I'm angry started to get the better of me, so I stepped back and I yelled that I wanted to speak to the police because actually I had done nothing wrong. Then I went back into my house. I did end up calling the non-emergency line, and the operator I spoke to reassured me that they were definitely not entitled to break in whether they were kids or not. And even if I swore at them, I had not broken any laws. So now we have to fix the fence gap and hope that the unhinged adult man living next door who thinks that it's perfectly fine to wander onto people's yards without permission doesn't decide to do that again himself. I'm starting to doubt that this was the first time the kids had broken in, as Whiskey had been screaming all day Saturday, but I really couldn't see anything when I checked. So seriously, am I in the wrong in this situation? Because right now I'm still incredibly upset. No, you are definitely not in the wrong. This is so stupid. That dad is like desperate to try and find some kind of justification for his stupid kid breaking into your property. And I think you have it right. I don't think this is the first time they've done that, and I don't think it would be the last unless you did something about it. People like this, specifically the dad, who encouraged this kind of crappy behavior, in my opinion, have no business being parents. He literally tried to be like, oh yeah, this is fine, kids do this all the time. And it's like, wait a second, I remember being a kid, and if I drop something in my neighbor's backyard, I'm not about to like break into that property to get it. I'm gonna knock on the front door and be like, hey, can I get my ball in your backyard? And then either they get it or I get it. You don't rip a hole in the fence and climb through and get it yourself, because I guarantee you that dumb kid was probably just trying to mess with those chickens. He probably didn't even care about the ball, and most likely used that as an excuse to get what he wanted. So yeah, this whole situation is really dumb, and I'm so sorry you had to go through that, because this entitled jerk is absolutely at fault. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for kicking out a couple who brought their baby and toddler to my wedding, even though I explained to them that my wedding was a child-free event? Because now the entire family's talking about it and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so this is a couple I'm not very close with, but the wife is a longtime family friend, so I felt that I should invite her. To be perfectly clear, all of my invitations stated that there were to be no children at this wedding, but she and her husband showed up with their infant and toddler, who I think is like maybe 4 years old. At the actual wedding ceremony, I let it slide. I was preoccupied for obvious reasons. I also thought that maybe they planned not to attend the reception or to have someone pick the kids up before it started. Anyways, the reception rolls around and lo and behold, they still have their children. I had many other guests and I didn't really feel like dealing with it, so I asked our event planner to go over to them and discuss whether someone was picking up the child, as the reception was not supposed to have children. I mean, everyone was drinking and loud and rowdy, and a crying child and another little one running around was not part of the plan. The infant already had to be taken out once during the wedding ceremony because of fussiness, and the toddler was, from what I could see, already appearing cranky. So my event planner went to talk to the couple, though I could tell they were arguing with my event planner, so I just went over to help them. I think they thought I came to rescue them because they started going on about how rude my event planner was, but I explained that I had actually sent him over to discuss the children. I reiterated that the event was child-free and said that I had stated so clearly on my invitations. The wife gave me a sort of apology and then assured me that they were capable of minding their own children to make sure they didn't get in the way of anything, but I said that wasn't really the point. That's when my now husband comes over, and he and the other woman's husband begin going back and forth, and things got a little heated. Finally though, I snapped, and I said that they just needed to go, which thankfully they did without much more noise. Still, the whole scene was incredibly embarrassing, which is exactly what I wanted to avoid. I really hate that my wedding day had to be somewhat marred by this incident. According to my mother, everyone was talking about it, and I guess enjoying a little dramatic entertainment. So was I the jerk by making them leave? Because right now, I'm not sure what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. These people very clearly disrespected your boundaries and brought their kids to your child-free wedding. Like, this is obviously their problem and not something that you should have had to deal with. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, because I know if I was in your shoes, I would do the exact same thing. My entitled parents are demanding that I let my cousin move in with me, who is a serious addict, and take care of her at my place, despite the fact that I've worked very hard to find my own place and have my own peace. Because right now they're guilt-tripping me really hard and calling me selfish and claiming that I'm abandoning the family. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Okay, so I moved out of my parents' house a year ago, and I've been working hard to build some peace in my own space. It hasn't been easy, but I'm proud of what I've managed to do for myself. Well, out of nowhere, my parents recently started pushing me to let my cousin move in with me. Now here's the kicker. They know she struggles with serious addictive behavior, and I've already made it clear in the past that I don't feel safe or capable of managing that under my roof. But suddenly they'll say stuff like, "You guys are like sisters. She just needs a place to rest." And it's funny how that sisterly love didn't apply when they were asked to take her in, because you know what? They refused. But somehow I'm expected to let her live in my apartment, pay all the bills, manage her habits, and still maintain my sanity? Well, I said no politely at first. And now I'm being guilt-tripped, called selfish, and being told I'm abandoning the family. I'm honestly so tired of being treated like the backup parent while they get to wash their hands of everything. I worked hard for this piece, and I'm not gonna burn it down out of guilt. So has anyone dealt with something like this? How do you hold your ground when it feels like your own family just doesn't respect your no? What should I do? Okay, in my opinion, this is probably the best time to stand your ground and not let them walk all over you. Seriously, if you don't stand right now, it will never happen again because they will know they can always get their way if they just push hard enough. And in my opinion, I would much rather be someone who is firm in my boundaries and people don't like me instead of a pushover that everyone loves because they can get anything out of them. Because let's be honest, you do not have to watch this lady and make sure she doesn't fall into addictive behavior at all. Why should you be responsible for that? That is so dumb. And them saying oh yeah, you guys are like sisters. She just needs a place to rest and reset. Seriously, just let her in. They are literally only trying to guilt trip you and you do not need that energy in your life. So truly, I don't blame you for saying no because if I was in your shoes, I literally would have done the exact same thing. An entitled Karen treats any personal shopper that she gets like absolute garbage. So after dealing with this for so long, me and my coworkers decided to get some petty revenge by charging this Karen more in a way that I don't think she's ever caught on to. Here's what happened. I'm a shift supervisor for a retail drugstore chain. Like a lot of retailers, we have our daily couponers and we have a lot of personal shoppers like DoorDash or Instacart. And you know what? Some of our couponers are the worst Karens. They've been told repeatedly of the coupon rules, yet they still break them. They hold up the line with their multiple transactions, pretend they can't speak English when we just saw them speaking it a minute ago, especially when we're explaining the rules. We've also seen the same personal shoppers over and over again. We know some of the frequent ones by a first name basis and have educated them on the layout of the store so they can get their job done faster. Now, just like a lot of stores post-pandemic, most of the store's coupons are online and has a curbside and delivery service. You place your order online and when it's ready, you come and we deliver it to your car in the parking lot. The company has a contract with one of the personal shopping companies to deliver as well. One of our coupon Karens has decided to use the delivery service at least once a week. She will order 10 to up to a dozen 12-pack of soda along with several shopping bags of coupon items. Well, one day Karen places an order and a personal shopper comes to pick it up. And this is one that we know quite well. The personal shopper gives out a loud sigh and says her again. And we ask what's wrong and the personal shopper explains that the Karen lives on the second floor of an apartment. She is incredibly rude and never tips. Just to deliver all of her stuff, we're talking about 10 trips back and forth from the car to the apartment. She becomes irate when the delivery isn't fast enough. She's been reported for her rudeness, but nothing has ever been done. Given that she has multiple reward card accounts at the store, she will probably start another account should she get banned. Well, fast forward a few weeks and we get the same story from the other two shoppers. They all wish that they could just pass over her delivery. Well, one day Karen puts in a delivery order and my colleague sighs that she's sorry for whichever shopper gets her. But then I see an evil grin coming across my colleague's face. I live in a state where businesses are required to charge for plastic bags, and it is only 10 cents a bag. Some people cringe about this, but others just don't really care. We try to fill the bags as full as possible without being too heavy. Well, my colleague grabs 2 additional bags. She grabs one item from each bag and places it in one of the empty ones. And she does it again with the second bag. All the bags look reasonably filled, but with the 2 extras, that's an extra 20-cent charge. We inform the personal shoppers of our deed, and most give out a small giggle. Well, since then, whenever Karen orders, we try to put Karen's items in as many bags as possible, while still looking reasonable. We've been doing this for about 3 months, and we don't think that Karen has noticed the extra charges. And sure, it is petty, but honestly, it leads to the moral of the story. Be nice and considerate to your personal shoppers and retail staff, or we will find a way to make you pay for your rudeness. I really like this because yeah, it is super petty, but you know what? This Karen deserves a lot worse than she's actually getting. Like in my opinion, the way you treat someone in customer service, whether that's a server or someone checking you out at a grocery store, that really determines who you really are on the inside. If you treat them as if they're below you and treat them with disrespect, then you, in my opinion, are a terrible person. Because seriously, there's no reason to act like that, especially if people are doing their job and they're doing it right. It would be different if the other person was super rude and not doing what they need to do, but I would seriously argue that people don't go into customer service to be jerks about it. They're literally just trying to make ends meet and make rent. And this just so happens to be the most easily accessible type of job in the area, which honestly usually is the case. So truly, to the original poster and everybody involved in this, good for you in getting this petty revenge, because this Karen deserves a lot worse than what you're giving her. Today, I messed up by trying to clear ice on the road and accidentally ending up on my neighborhood Facebook group, and I am honestly so done with these people. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, there is a huge block of ice blocking the drain that drains water from the road. Because of this, water has been gathering in a big puddle on the road and creating a growing pothole visible under the water. On the colder days, it freezes and makes the road slippery, and people have been calling the city about this, but clearly nothing gets done done. Not to mention, the city workers don't operate in this area. Anyways, after slipping on this ice for what seems like the 100th time during my daily commute, I decided to take matters into my own hands. When I made it home, I grabbed a snow shovel and I started breaking the ice to free the drain. The ice was really stubborn, and I couldn't see the drain, but I knew it was there. After a few hours, I decided to call it a day. The next day, I used a saw to saw through the ice, but still it didn't budge. Then I used a pickaxe on the ice, and it worked better than a shovel, but still, I couldn't completely break through the meter of ice. I decided to put more road salt on it in a last attempt, and after that, I went back inside. Well, when I came back and I checked my Facebook, there was a post on the community group that said, "Whoever is the parent of that kid breaking the ice, please get your kid. They are blocking the road." Now, where I live, nobody wants to splash a kid with road water because it is like the bare minimum of what you can get sued for. So nobody wanted to drive by too fast. They all drove by slowly to avoid splashing what they thought was somebody's kid. So I told the poster that yeah, that was my kid, and then I asked them to take the picture down. And while they ended up taking the picture down, I not only realized how short I actually was, but also how petty and weird people on Facebook can truly be. Oh man, that's so stupid. Like, come on. Here you are trying to solve a very obvious problem, you know, the one that the city literally won't come out there to work on, and people have the audacity to be like, "Oh my god, they're blocking the way. They're trying to remove that dangerous thing and it's blocking my way of getting home." It's like, dude, do you have nothing better to do with your life than to take pictures of people and post them on Facebook? Like, seriously, get a life. That's so weird. So yeah, you definitely did the right thing, and honestly, those people on Facebook are idiots. And hopefully this doesn't bother you too much, because honestly, this is incredibly dumb. Am I the jerk for how I reacted to my mother-in-law's wedding gift after she gave me something so offensive it honestly just blows my mind? Because right now there's a giant rift in the family, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I've been with my fiance Daniel for 9 years. We're getting married this December, and we've been planning a wedding that combines both of our cultures. Daniel and his family are Korean American, and my family and I are Indian. Daniel's dad introduced us, and he was always really warm and kind. His mom, who we will call Grace, wasn't hostile or anything like that, but she was definitely distant in the beginning. Over time, things got better, or so I thought. When we got engaged, I include Grace in the planning, since it is traditional in his family for both mothers to be involved. I genuinely wanted her to feel included and respected, but now I'm really regretting that decision, because she's made this whole process emotionally exhausting. There have been these small comments throughout the planning that I just can't shake. When I told her I'd be wearing my natural curls, she said straight hair would be more polished and traditional, but if I wanted to go with a wild, untamed look, then I was very brave. When we brought her a sample of our wedding cake, which was a sponge cake with pistachio cream filling, she called it very exotic and told us not to worry if it went untouched by her side, because Indian flavors can be a bit intense. When I showed her what my family would be wearing, which was a traditional Indian clothing with jewelry, she said since their side of the family is larger, mine might stick out more, and that our side's attire might be a little distracting. Her comments are never outright rude, but these little remarks make me feel like my culture is constantly being framed as too much or too different. Daniel says she probably doesn't mean anything by it and just wants the wedding to be perfect. My mom has even offered to step in, but I've asked her not to. I've been trying hard to keep things peaceful, and then this happened. During a recent call, I reminded Grace of our wedding colors, which were purple, gold, and green. She then complimented the scheme and said I would look great in gold. I gently corrected her and I said my lehenga would actually be lavender purple. She then went quiet and changed the subject, and I honestly thought nothing of it. 2 days later, she came to our apartment while Daniel was at work, bringing what she was calling a pre-wedding gift. Now, I was touched until I opened the box and saw it was a bottle of skin whitening cream. I tried to remain calm and I asked her why she thought this was appropriate. She told me lavender is a delicate color and doesn't always look good on darker skin tones, so she thought that I could use this to lighten up a bit so that the lehenga would suit me better. And when she said this, I absolutely lost it. I told her how offensive and inappropriate that was, and that I wasn't going to lighten my skin for anyone. She looked at me stunned and said I was being too sensitive and that she was only trying to help. Then she added that if I really respected Korean culture, I would have chosen a white dress, like traditional Korean brides do. That the way we're planning the wedding makes her feel like we don't actually care about her culture. And she said this all before I told her to leave. And now she's crying to Daniel and his dad, saying I attacked her and twisted her intentions. Daniel says he understands why I'm upset, but he also thinks I should have stayed calm and that maybe it was just a cultural misunderstanding. And he's now asking me to smooth things over. But you know what? I'm exhausted, and I'm not trying to ruin my relationship with Grace or hurt Daniel's relationship with his family. But I'm honestly so very hurt over this, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Okay, this really pisses me off as well, because this was not some kind of like cultural misunderstanding. Daniel's mom was being straight up racist racist, and there's no other way to put it. She literally gave her like skin whitening cream just to make her feel better about the way she looked. Not to mention all the dog whistle remarks she's made about your culture. Like seriously, this is so messed up. I don't care what anybody says here. And in my opinion, I can't believe Daniel's not stepping in and telling his mom to get lost. Why on earth is he not taking his future wife's side on this? These microaggressions are absolutely unacceptable. And of course, they're so subtle that she can just sit there and be like, oh, I'm the victim. I'm being attacked and my intentions are being twisted around. It's like, no, dude, that's definitely not what's happening. You're just straight up racist and disrespectful. And in my opinion, there's no way she should be welcome in the wedding at all. So just to answer your question, no, you're not in the wrong for freaking out, because what your mother-in-law did to you, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. An entitled jerk decides to be a loud, massive loser, all in a local library where people are trying to study. So my brother exposes him on Facebook, literally putting him in his place in a way he will never forget. Here's what happened. So this past winter, my brother was at the local library for about 6 weeks, studying for an important exam as a ship's officer. He goes there to rid himself of distractions, namely video games, and he says that it helps him keep him focused. He sits in the back of the library, which overlooks a small park with a small river, and it honestly is a beautiful view. There's a rotating group of nerdy guys who hang out all day in this section, and my brother has made casual friends with them. Well, there's a local contractor who comes by 1 to 2 times daily and does business over the phone in this area. I guess he likes the view as well, but the trouble is that he does not do it quietly. My brother's trying to study, but he keeps getting interrupted by this guy by answering his phone with his construction company name and then addressing customers that he's probably working with. My brother asked him to keep his voice down, which worked the first few times, until this guy, who we will call Roman, got tired of this kid bothering him. My brother then asked for the front desk to handle it, but they got tired of having to constantly do this, and Roman would just quiet down until the librarian would leave. The nerdy guys told my brother that he had been doing it forever, and they were just kind of used to it. Finally, my brother spent a week humbly and politely asking this guy to please lower his voice or take his calls out in the lobby. He made it a point to be very polite and stressed that he was trying to study. Roman seemed to sense his weakness and doubled down on his attitude. He replies by saying, "Kid, go back to your books. I told you before, I ain't got time for you." My brother had set up his laptop to record all of this, and after a week or so of this, he put together a 3 to 4 minute video of their exchanges, and he actually posted it on 6 different Facebook groups about our town, and he made sure to make it public so it could be shared. And you know what? It was a hit. There was a couple hundred comments and dozens of shares. His poor wife was tagged in several of the posts, and several people posted it to his Facebook company page. All those posts were quickly deleted, but best of all, it was discovered that he had been booted from the local Dunkin' Donuts for this same kind of behavior. I mean, one of the Facebook groups by the name of Jerks in Our Town made him their profile picture. And by the way, we're in a small city that has no shortage of Karens, so this dude got it with both barrels. My brother told the nerd group what he'd done and to have their phones ready for when he returned. They all loved the video, and he was like a rock star for a couple of days. About 4 days later, Roman finally came back to the library, and my brother held up his phone, as did about 3 other people. Roman was hot, but checked himself when he saw he was being filmed by several people. And you know what? He was not apologetic. He just kept repeating that my brother had affected his business and that he was just trying to conduct his business and needed a place to do that. My brother then said, "I think you owe all of us an apology." Roman then looked around at the group and said, "Okay, I'm sorry." My brother said thank you, and then Roman walked away. But after about 20 or 30 feet, Roman turned around, saw my brother watching him but his phone on the table, and shot him the middle finger. But you know what? He never came back to that library, and my brother ended up passing all of his exams. Wow, I love this because seriously, a library is like the last safe haven for any kind of like concentration. If you're trying to get something done, usually the library's a good spot to go, just so you can have some kind of peace and quiet. So good for your brother for putting this guy in his place, because his attitude was incredibly disrespectful. My friend's psycho mom tried to get my daughter deported so that I would date her son, basically saying that if my daughter was out of the way, then I would have a fair shot at dating her son and changing his life. Things got so bad that they actually sent ICE agents to my house to literally investigate my 3-year-old daughter. And I'm honestly still so crazy upset about this that at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm a 30-year-old female, and I'm a single mom to a mixed-race 3-year-old daughter. For reference, I'm white, but my daughter's father is a New Zealand Maori who I met and briefly dated while he did his training and worked here in the States. He and I are not together anymore, and he's not involved in our daughter's life as he moved back to New Zealand, but I do have some contact with his parents as my daughter is their only grandchild. child. And on top of that, I do feel it's good for my daughter to know her Maori culture and paternal grandparents as well. Anyways, I come from a well-off upper middle class family, and my friend, who we will call Kate, is from a low-income working class family from West Virginia. We met in college, we are close, and Kate is a genuinely nice and kind person, but is also low contact with her toxic family, which consists of her stepmom, who we will call Pam, her stepbrother, who we will call Kyle, and the dad. Now, Pam is on disability, Kate's dad is a truck driver, and according to Kate, her stepbrother Kyle apparently makes women feel uncomfortable. He can't hold a job, doesn't really interact with others outside the internet, has this weird fantasy about having a trad wife, and has very racist and misogynistic views as well. Last year, me and my other friend, who we will call Rachel, along with some of our friends, hosted an engagement party for Kate and her boyfriend, who we will call Jack, at my family's vacation home in Catskills. It was supposed to just be us, our other friends, and some of our colleagues from the museum, but apparently when Kate mentioned it to her dad, Kate's stepmom Pam demanded that we let them attend, and after some back and forth, we decided to just let them come, but I opted to not formally send them an invite, and instead I just told Kate that they can come if they want. During the party, Pam and Kyle seemed rather out of place, as they couldn't really hold a conversation with anyone. When anyone tried to talk about her stepdaughter Kate and her fiance Jack, you know, the ones who this party was to celebrate, Pam would somehow try to make it about her son Kyle. In fact, Pam kept trying to talk up her son Kyle to me, Rachel, and some of the other girls in the party, and they complained about us having Taylor Swift playing in the background, with Kyle calling it feminist trash. Later, when I was chatting with our former college professor, Kyle came up to me, he tried chatting with me, asking me questions and flirting with me, and I tried being polite, answering his questions with one word or one sentence answers, but when he asked me out on a date, I told him I couldn't, as I do have my job and my daughter to look after. Well, long story short, I started shouting at him, telling them, namely Kyle and his mom, to leave, warning that I'd call the sheriff's office if they didn't, after Kyle said something along the lines of, well, I would be perfect for him, especially if I didn't have my half-breed daughter. And by the way, those are his words and not mine, while also saying that if I wanted to be with him, I'd have to put my daughter up for adoption or something. Pam then joined in, saying something along the lines of, how dare you talk to my son like that, demanding that I give her son a chance. And they eventually left after our friends and guests started chewing them out, calling them trash, and Rachel did call for law enforcement. Now, Kate did profusely apologize for her stepmom and stepbrother's behavior, but I assured her that I don't blame her, as she did warn me about them, but I just didn't think that it would be this horrible. Over the next year or so, Pam did message me on Facebook a few times, saying things like, how dare you talk to my son like that? You people think you're too good for us, complaining that we've previously never invited her or her son to anything, and that I should apologize to and go on a date with her son. And mind you, I'm friends with Kate and not her stepmom and stepbrother. Well, I reminded her that her son is a coddled high school dropout who can't hold a job. Pam herself is unemployed, her son is a racist and misogynistic bum, and her family, except for Kate, is trash. While I actually do have a well-paying job, I've got a master's degree, I do not share the same toxic views of her or her son, and that I'm more than capable of supporting myself, something neither her nor her son could do. I then blocked Pam, and for some reason it slipped my mind to also block Kyle. And keep this in mind because this will be important later on. I did tell Kate and the others in the friend group about this, and Kate apologized for her stepmother again and revealed that her stepmom and Kyle have been low-key stalking me and Rachel, looking at our posts on Instagram and TikTok, and watching videos we post of us going on family boat trips, eating out at restaurants, and Pam apparently being envious of my family's 2023 Christmas dinner party. Now, because of this, Pam has been telling Kate how she believes that she deserves the life me and Rachel live, hence why Pam has been trying to pressure Kate to hook Kyle up with either me or Rachel, to which Kate has repeatedly refused to do so. The engagement party we held for Kate was back in July of 2024, and between then and a few days ago, I haven't heard from them. However, last weekend I was with my daughter at my family's house in the Upper East Side when ICE agents showed up at my door, because apparently someone reported my daughter as being an illegal immigrant. Firstly, I called my grandpa's law firm, and they sent a couple of lawyers to our family home, and I explained to the agents that my daughter's dad may be a foreign national, but me, being an American, am her biological mother, and my daughter was born in Boston, so she's a United States citizen. Now, I'm not going to get into how the interaction with ICE went, as it was stressful and my grandpa's lawyers mostly handled it, but long story short, it turns out that Kate's stepmother and stepbrother reported my daughter to ICE to try and get my daughter deported, in hopes that if my daughter was gone, I would somehow be willing to go out with Kyle. According to Kate, she found out that her stepmom just created another account, and given the fact that I forgot to block Kyle as well, he was able to see me post online. They knew my daughter was a US citizen as she was born here. Kate herself told them that in the past, but according according to Kate, they think it's disgusting for me to have a mixed-race child, and they wanted to hook up with Kyle so they can be included in my family's social events, trips on my dad's yacht, and live the life that they think they deserve. That being said, they also think that if they somehow got my daughter out of the way, I could start fresh with Kyle. Kate also mentioned that going forward, she will be going no contact with her stepmom and stepbrother, as she and Jack did not want her stepmom trying to interfere with or dictate their married life, since they as a couple have had problems with Pam in the past. Also, Kate said she will testify in court against her stepmom and stepbrother if it really does come to that. Because of this, my grandfather, my dad, our family's lawyers, and I agree that it's best we take them to court. Now, for some additional context, yes, unfortunately, Kate did come from a toxic household, as her stepbrother was an entitled golden child who was coddled by his mom. Pam is a controlling and psychologically awful person who feels the need to control everyone, and Kate's dad is barely around, nor does he seem interested in being involved with his family. That being said, Kate's dad has been pretty much absent from most of the awful things that Kate has been dealing with during her teenage years, and when Kate did tell her dad, he would just brush it off. And that is how I understood her family situation to be. That's why Kate, up until this past weekend, was only low contact with her family, but after the incident of Kyle and Pam stalking me and Rachel, Kate and her fiance Jack have decided to finally go no contact with Pam and Kyle, as they really don't want any of their toxicity in their life going forward, and especially don't want Pam around any future kids that Kate and Jack may have. This is legitimately a crazy situation, and I just want to say to the original poster, I am so sorry this happened to you. You are seriously very brave for sharing this, because my god, this paints a picture I've honestly never seen before. Like seriously, can you imagine for a second being so crazy that you think falsely reporting that somebody's daughter is an illegal alien in hopes that they would get deported is somehow gonna win this lady over for your crazy son? Like my god, talk about using the system in the wrong way. These people are out of their minds if they think that's okay, and I'm so sorry that happened to you and your daughter. Like you guys don't deserve that in the slightest. You literally only invited them because they were like, oh, we don't want to be left out, please let us come to your stupid party, and then they pull this stuff and it's like, dude, what is happening right now? So seriously, I really hope this gets worked out for you and your family, especially for the sake of your daughter. Like that really is a crazy situation, and you guys do not deserve that in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my friends to delete their reviews of my cafe, as it was glaringly obvious that they used ChatGPT to make the review? Here's what happened. So I opened up a cafe a few months ago. The premise is very small, and my business partner and I live directly above it, so it's closer to a side hustle more than anything, since we only open for the morning rush. Business has been steadily increasing, and we've been getting nothing but good feedback from our customers so far. Last month, I invited my entire friend group to enjoy a beverage and a slice of cake at the cafe for free in exchange for honest feedback in the form of a Google review, since I wanted to try out some new drink ideas and also get a bit more traffic on our Google page. Well, my friends ate, they drank, and then they bounced, and a good time was had by all, with each of them promising to write a review the next day. Every single friend wrote a review, and every single one of them was obviously generated by ChatGPT and written in American English, which is not even the official language here. Some of the reviews even mention services or drink items that we just don't have. So when I saw this, I was really conflicted. While I appreciated them taking a moment of their time to write a review, I feel like not only was it a half-baked gesture, but also I think that since people can tell a fake review from a genuine one, it only affects my cafe's credibility. I mean, would you visit a cafe where the only reviews are all clearly AI generated? I know I wouldn't, which is why I've asked a couple of them to take the reviews down and redo it. I'm not entirely surprised that they were taken aback and not happy with my request. It's not pleasant to be told that your gesture, no matter how small it is meaningless. One of them even said that they don't feel welcome at my business anymore. But I feel like as a business owner, I should be mindful of credibility to the point where I have to risk offending people, and unsurprisingly, my business partner agrees. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now, I don't know what to do. Oh man, no, you're definitely not the jerk. I would be super pissed off if my friends didn't leave legitimate reviews. Seriously, you welcomed them into your cafe, you gave them a free meal, and then the least they could do was leave an actual review, but instead they used ChatGPT to do it? Like, are you kidding me right now? That is so disrespectful. To me, it shows that they only showed up for the free meal, but also they don't actually care enough to be like, yeah, let me leave a good review for my friend. It's like, come on, that literally would take 5 seconds. And the fact that they tried to do that through ChatGPT in a different language than the one you live in, it's like, come on, that is even more telling that no, they're not doing this because they care. So no, you're not the jerk for asking that, because literally they're only hurting your cafe. And whether this is a side business this or not, it honestly is super disrespectful that they didn't leave a proper review, because that literally is the bare minimum of what you could expect from them. An obnoxious jerk keeps texting me about something that I have nothing to do with, as they were trying to reach out to the person who previously had my phone number. So after dealing with this for so long, I finally hit my breaking point where I told them to get lost or else I would sue them, resulting in them literally never contacting me ever again. Here's what happened. Okay, so at the time I was 15 years old and I had a new number. I got this text message from someone who we will call Dan, and they were wondering about a property somewhere the previous owner of the number had, which honestly I assume is what they were looking for. They gave me the address, not all of it though, and I just never looked it up, but I didn't recognize the number at all or the area code. At first I was polite to the person and informed them that who they were looking for no longer had the number, and at first it seemed fine. That is until I got another text message. It was the same person looking for the previous owner about the same property, and again I was nice, but it kept on happening. At some point I was a bit harsh, and I said that the person died even though I hope they didn't, and I said not to text me, but they did anyways, and I think it happened about 8 or 10 times in total. Now I can't be sure as I lost the phone, but after the last time they did it, I was fed up. My stepmother said something once about how the same person or company can't contact you after a certain amount of times or it's considered harassment, and to get out of that, they'll contact you from different numbers. And I think it was in a day, but I could be wrong. But regardless, I'm sure you can see exactly where this is going. My young brain came up with an absolutely brilliant idea at the time. I went back to the previous conversations and took screenshots of each time they contacted me and my responses. And I pretended to be my father and I told them something like, "Stop contacting my underage daughter or I will come after you and sue you for harassment." And I did this with the evidence attached that they had contacted me more than once and that I had asked them to stop and they continued. I wasn't sure if I really could go after them for harassment or not, but it was the only thing I could think of at the time. Well, to make a long story short, I never got another text message from them ever again. Eventually, I lost the number later, but you know what? Even still, it was great to finally get these people off of my back. Wow, you made a brave decision there. You literally played the gambit by not only being like, "Oh, I'm this person's dad and I'm gonna sue you," but also being like, "Oh, the person who had this number is dead." Like, wow, that is a gamble. You really put everything on the line and said, "Okay, we're doing this," because that is not something I would ever do. I would either block them or find some way to like get away from them and just hope that the messages would stop. But you went to a level that I don't think I would ever go to, and to that end, I congratulate you because clearly it worked. Today, I messed up by leaving my door unlocked for 15 minutes, allowing a man who I've never met before to walk into my house under the assumption that my house was a massage parlor, and I've honestly never been more confused or freaked out in my entire life. Here's what happened. So this wasn't quite today, but on Monday night, my partner and I saw a dog walk past us with no human. We figured that it was a lost dog and decided to search for it. We split up, my partner was on foot, and I took my scooter. We don't find the dog, and then we meet up on the corner. My partner then said that he was going to quickly check the park across from ours just for a second. I went home because I really needed to go to the bathroom, and this was at 11:30 p.m. at night. Now, I left the door unlocked because my partner wasn't gonna be long, and who the heck is coming to my house at 11:30 p.m. at night with all my security cameras and with all the lights on? Then, while I was on the toilet, literally going number 2, I heard someone by the door, and obviously I thought it was my partner. I yelled out and I said, "Hey honey, did you find the dog?" Then I heard the door with no response and assumed that he didn't hear me. I yelled again and I got a deep, low, strange noise. I heard footsteps coming up the stairs, and a huge 6'2" man was standing in the doorway of the toilet, literally as I'm going to the bathroom. I'm in absolute shock, and then the guy says to me, "Is this the massage parlor?" At this point, my brain is so confused. So I just tell him no. He then asked me, "Oh, do you offer other services here?" And again, I was so confused. So I look at him again and I say, "No." He then just stands there for another minute, confused himself, and then walks down the stairs and leaves. And I'm honestly still in disbelief that this happened to me, because this truly was one of the craziest situations I've ever had happen in my life. My entitled brother loves scamming members of my family and only becomes a worse person anytime he gets caught. Here's what happened. Okay, so I've recently come to realize that my brother loves to scam the family and does not like it when he gets caught. A petty example would be back in 2020, when restaurants were starting to reopen in the United Kingdom. I was about 26 years old and I was going out, and my brother, who was 28 at the time, asked me to bring back a Five Guys meal costing me about $20. Now, he promised to pay me back, so I obliged, and I gave him the meal once I returned home. He didn't have the money right then, but he promised me that he would pay me back soon. Around 2 days later, around 11 o'clock p.m. in the evening, he approached me in the living room asking for a massage whilst we watched anime, which is something he would request regularly, saying his back was aching badly due to working as a physiotherapist. Now, this time I said no. I said I'm not going to be doing any favors like that for him until he paid me back the money that he owed me. He he immediately got defensive and aggressive, shouting stuff like, "You're seriously not gonna do it?" Hurling insults, and when I insisted I won't do anything, all the way until he pays me back, he shouted at me and said, "You should have reminded me." And I pointed out, "It shouldn't have to be on me to remind you." He then stormed off immediately, and to this day he still hasn't paid me back. And in fact, I cut him off the following year. Although the above examples are rather petty, I bring this up because of something my dad told me a couple of weeks ago. It turned out my dad and brother had some deal where my dad would handle his phone bill and my brother would give him the money each month. Apparently, my dad realized he'd forgotten about this for months, and he approached my brother and asked him if he could pay back around $200 that he owed him. Keep in mind, my brother earns over $40,000 a year, and he lives with my parents rent-free, so money is definitely not an issue. Apparently, his response was to throw a fit, shouting at my dad and then sending him $2,000 instead, despite my dad's protests. I told my dad he was using a manipulation tactic by overpaying him in some kind of an attempt to make my dad feel guilty and put him in the wrong when my dad's request was more than reasonable. I also have no doubt that my brother didn't just forget to pay my dad either, and I've got no doubt he was trying to see how long he could do this for. Now, for additional context, I have not spoken to him in 4 years, and I cut him off completely after he screamed at me for never talking to him and then tried to out me as trans. I have since moved out in 2021, and honestly, I am so glad to finally be away from that man. Yeah, that sounds like a really awful situation, and I'm so glad you're away from them as well. Because seriously, your brother is definitely a con artist. You mean to tell me he refused to pay you back, what, the $20 for that meal, and then try to be like, "Well, you should have reminded me." It's like, dude, I really should not have to remind you about this. Like, are you kidding me right now? This should have been a simple situation that you could have easily fixed. All you gotta do is pay me back and then everything's fine. So the fact that they freaked out on you and they continue to like basically use these manipulation tactics, not only on you, but also on your family, like that's crazy in my opinion, and I don't blame you for being annoyed. So yeah, this is super weird, and I honestly don't blame you for a second, because your brother sounds like an absolute piece of work. Am I the jerk for saying that my boyfriend's friend can't visit us now that I'm pregnant? Because this guy is constantly making a mess and making my life harder, especially considering that I have a child on the way. Here's what happened. Okay, so my boyfriend has a friend who is currently pursuing the whole van life thing, where literally they're living out of his van. The past several months, this friend has been coming by our house a couple of days a week. Each time he's here, he stays around 10 to 12 hours to use the shower, use our kitchen and washing machine, and use our Wi-Fi. I've been unhappy with the lack of privacy and the extra work for quite a while, which my boyfriend is well aware of, but has been putting up with because the friend is down on his luck and could use some help. However, now that I'm pregnant, I'm ready for this situation to end. I want to be able to lay on my couch without pants on and not have to get dressed, so to say, whenever they decide to come over. I also hate having to talk about my private medical details with my partner, all while trying to whisper because they're in the next room. I'm also just worn out in general, and the friend is generating so much extra work. He comes into our house after doing construction jobs and tracks in a ton of dust and dirt, and every time he showers, he somehow leaves a thick coating of body hair all over the shower that now I have to clean up before I could shower again. After he uses the washing machine, there are sticks and leaves and sand all over the laundry room. Not only does he hog the kitchen when I want to cook meals sometimes, but he also leaves all of his dirty dishes for me to deal with afterwards. Ideally, I'd have my boyfriend deal with the extra work since he's the one inviting the dude over, but with his busier work schedule, most of the housework falls on me. So to me, it's a no-brainer that the friend finds somewhere else to be for a couple of months to give me some privacy and a break from the added work. However, when I brought this up to my boyfriend and I told him it was time to set a boundary with a friend, he told me it was first of all a very awkward and weird thing to ask of his friend, and secondly, a cruel and insensitive thing for me to request. He's willing to do so for me, but at the same time is making it very clear that he thinks I'm a monster for even asking him to do this. So is it actually unreasonable for me to put a no visitors rule in place for the next few months? Because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, this is your house and your space, and if someone is literally taking up that space and not being kind to it, then something needs to change. And I honestly can't fathom the fact that your boyfriend's trying to be like, wow, you're being cruel and unusual. This is really insensitive. And yet here you are sitting there like, oh, okay, but guess what? I'm pregnant, idiot. What do you think is gonna happen? This friend literally is not gonna have any space in this house, and the boyfriend's gonna learn that really quickly. They're gonna learn real fast that this child is gonna take precedent in almost every aspect of your life. So he can either deal with this now or deal with it later when it's probably gonna be too late, and feelings get hurt and this guy really gets upset. So no, you are definitely not the jerk for saying that to your boyfriend, and you're definitely not making things awkward or being cruel and insensitive. That, in my opinion, is a really dumb thing of your boyfriend to say, and that is completely out of line. My entitled sister's demon spawn of a child destroys my my $2,000 gaming setup all in one night while I was sleeping. And after I discovered the damage, I told her that she can either pay up or I would take her to court. But now she has literally blocked me on everything, saying that she will never pay for any of the damages. And I'm honestly so completely shocked by all of this that at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. To start things out, I'm a 25-year-old female, and I'm honestly at my breaking point with this one. I need outside perspective because my entire family is acting like I'm a jerk for standing my ground. So for a bit of context, I'm a student software developer and a pretty serious PC gamer in my free time. I live alone in a one-bedroom apartment that I've spent years making cozy and functional, and I saved up for a long time to build my dream PC setup. Triple monitors, custom mechanical keyboard, ergonomic chairs, the works. Altogether, my rig is worth a bit over $2,000, and I take care of it as if it's a child. Last weekend, my older sister, who's 30 years old, asked if she could crash at my place for one night because her apartment was being fumigated and her husband was out of town. She has a 3-year-old who we will call Max, who is, let's just say, very spirited. I love him, but he is just a little chaos gremlin. I hesitated, but she swore she would keep an eye on him and that it would just be for one night. They show up Saturday afternoon, and immediately it's clear that she wasn't kidding about Max being a handful. Within 10 minutes of arriving, he had pulled 4 books off of my shelf, thrown my houseplants on the floor, and spilled juice on my area rug. Now, I tried to stay chill. He is only 3 years old, I mean, I get it. But I asked my sister politely to please keep him out of my office where my PC setup is. Well, after I say that, she just rolls her eyes at me and goes, well, he's just exploring. He's curious. This is normal. But thankfully, she closes the office door anyways. Cut to Sunday morning, and I wake up to screaming. Max had apparently woken up before his mom, managed to open the office door, and decided my setup was his new jungle gym. He pulled down one of my monitors, cracking the screen. He stuck crackers into the PC tower's ventilation slots, and no, I'm not kidding. He yanked out my keyboard's keycaps and had colored on my chair with permanent marker. But the cherry on top of all of this is that he poured apple juice into the tower itself. Like literally into it. When I tell you I went silent, I mean I went dead silent. My sister comes in, sees the damage, and just says, oh no, in this incredibly flat tone, like someone knocked over a cup of coffee. I then start freaking out, and she has the audacity to say to me, well, you should have baby-proofed the room if it was that important to you. And at this point, I just lost it on her. I told her that for one, she knew he wasn't supposed to be in there, and secondly, this is my space, not a daycare. Also, baby-proofing a $2,000 gaming setup is not a standard requirement for adults living alone. She then told me to calm down, and then she said to me, he's just a kid and stuff is replaceable. So I told her that she could replace it then. She said she didn't have the money right now, but maybe in a few months she could give me a few hundred. But I told her straight up that wasn't acceptable and that she needed to take full responsibility. She then left in a huff, and now my entire family is blowing up my phone. My mom says I'm being materialistic and should understand that my nephew didn't mean it. My dad said I should have locked the door if it was that important. And my brother actually said, why do you need 3 monitors anyways? That's kind of an overkill, don't you think? I have filed a claim with my insurance, but there is no guarantee it'll be covered since it was technically guest damage. I also told her that if she does not pay up, I will take her to court for what happened. And now I'm getting text messages from my sister demanding an apology for blaming her kid for being curious. But I told her I would drop it if she covered the cost of repairs and replacements, or at least met me halfway. And you know what? After I said that, she just blocked me. So truly, am I overreacting if I take my sister to court over this? Because right now I'm incredibly frustrated. Oh my gosh, I cannot imagine that happening to my setup. I think I would lose my mind if that happened to me. Seriously, the fact that that kid poured apple juice inside the tower itself, like that's permanent damage. That's the kind of damage that's going to take a while to figure out. The screen and the keyboard and the chair, that in and of itself for me would not be that big of a deal. But the fact that they poured apple juice into the PC tower itself, like dude, there's no way I would ever keep calm about that. And you better believe I would absolutely take her to small claims court because she admits that yes, this was her stupid kid doing that. And the original poster has it right. They should not have to baby-proof their house. Your sister should have taken you seriously and prevented her demon spawn from destroying your setup. So no, you are definitely not the jerk for demanding that she be held responsible because this situation is 100% her fault and she absolutely needs to pay up. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My husband just quit his job with no notice and no plan, and now I'm kind of panicking because at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I've been with my husband for over 20 years. I love him and have never doubted that he's my person. Normally, we function as a couple extremely well. I consider myself to be very lucky in love. But I've been working 2 jobs because it has been my goal to get totally out of debt this year. 100% of my second job income was going towards that debt. I barely have any free time at all, and I can't remember the last time I had a day free to myself. I've been on the grind hard, and our economy is only getting scarier. Well, my husband came home this week, unexpectedly stating that he quit his job. He was miserable and mistreated where he worked. I've been begging him to find something new, but you know what? I kind of wanted him to have a new job lined up first. I'm miserable where I work too, and my company is aggressively downsizing. My husband is well aware that my job security for my primary job is very thin, if not non-existent, and yet he still chose to do this. He didn't give a 2 weeks notice, and he didn't have any kind of plan for what comes next. I wanted him to get out there, yes, but not like this. I feel like I've been betrayed. I feel like I'm seeing my debt-free dreams turn up to ashes before my eyes. I can't even express to him how upset and worried I am without him going into a fit of self-deprecating tears. I haven't really been able to have a productive talk with him either. He just melts down and starts yelling about how he ruined our lives. I love him and I'm heartbroken, and I feel like I'm utterly alone in the world now because my partner stabbed me in the back, and I didn't agree to be the only provider in the family. So at this point, I'm pretty upset and I'm very scared, and I feel like he thinks that I should be more supportive since I did want him to leave where he was to begin with. What should I do? Oh man, this is a really sketchy situation because my God, your husband literally quit his job overnight. He didn't have anything else lined up. Like, I don't know about you, but I've had crappy jobs, but even in those crappy jobs, I've still tried to have something lined up. It seems like this is one of those like spur of the moment things where he's like, no, I can't take it anymore, and then he just quits on the spot. And that really is not a good idea in my opinion. So truly, I'm so sorry you're going through this, and hopefully he's able to find something soon, because you do not deserve to be in this situation in the slightest. My coworker kept stealing my lunch, so I decided to get some revenge by taking a crap in my coworker's drawer. And honestly, I don't regret it, and I seriously wish I'd done it sooner. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of context, I work in a customer service office, and this is basically cubicles stacked on top of more cubicles. The vibe isn't terrible, but there is this one guy who we will call Steve, who has this incredibly annoying habit of stealing people's food from the communal fridge. It doesn't matter if it's labeled, dated, or surrounded by aggressive post-it notes. If it's in there, he will take it. People have brought it up before, but he always just plays dumb. He'll say something like,
"Oh, I thought it was up for grabs. I didn't see a name on it."
But this guy's an absolute liar, and he knows it. The final straw was when he stole my container of homemade lasagna. Not just any lasagna, this was my mom's lasagna. The kind that takes like 6 hours to make and has more layers than a Christopher Nolan plot. I even put a note on it that says, "Do not touch, seriously." Well, the next day, the container's gone. It's washed and sitting in the sink, and Steve's breath smelled like oregano and betrayal. At that point, I'd had enough, so I decided to take the kind of revenge that would guarantee he would never mess with my food ever again. I brought in an old Tupperware I didn't care about, I double bagged it, and I made sure I was very well hydrated that morning, and I used the bottom drawer of his desk like it was my own personal porta potty, if you know what I mean. I then carefully closed it, cleaned the outside, and walked away like nothing happened. And you know what? He didn't notice right away. But by day 2, the smell was unreal. People thought something had died in the vents. Maintenance got called, and they were checking the ceiling tiles, they were crawling under the desks, and I acted concerned and even helped them look. Steve then started accusing everyone of leaving rotten food around until someone finally opened his drawer. And the scream he let out was something I will treasure forever. He ran to the bathroom gagging and took the rest of the day off. Now, was it immature? Absolutely. Do I regret it? No, not even a little bit. Ever since that day, my food has been 100% untouched. And when it comes to Steve's drawer, it still smells kind of weird. But you know what? Justice was served. And it was served warm and nasty. I'm not gonna lie, that's the grossest thing I've ever heard in my life. I mean, seriously, you could have gone to like HR or like reported them to a manager, but instead you decided to do a number 2 in a jar and just leave it in his desk? Like, dude, that is brutal. That's a little bit too much even for me, and I love a good revenge plot. Like, seriously, that is so gross. So yeah, good for you, I guess, because he didn't eat any more of your food, but also, like, maybe don't do that ever again, because that could have gotten you in a lot of trouble, and I think you got off really lucky in this situation. An entitled male Karen tried to get free food from our pizza restaurant, but thankfully, my general manager saw right through his scheme, as she put him in his place in a way that honestly was fantastic to watch. Here's what happened. Okay, so I work at a pizza franchise, and I had the pleasure of being a spectator to the Karen game that took place today. Mr. Karen walks into our restaurant and speaks to our general manager. He immediately starts the game with a complaint about our cheese, as he wants to know what kind of cheese we use, where we get it from, and our thawing process that we have. He even dares to ask to see the label on one of the boxes. His reasoning is that 1 in every 8 pizzas he gets from our restaurant, the cheese isn't melted right. Mr. Mr. Karen then says, "I think she's the one that made the pizza last," and then points to the only black employee we have working there. Our general manager suggests that perhaps his issue with the way the cheese melts is that the toppings are normally put on before the cheese. So she takes his order and then he leaves to go shopping, or sit in his car maybe while the pizza's made. Whatever the case, our general manager insisted on being the only one to make his pizza through every single step, stretching the dough, applying the sauce, the cheese, the toppings. She even made sure that she was the only one to cut his pizza. When he came back to his pizza, she had him check the pizza right there in front of her to see if it was cooked the way that he liked it. Without even asking who made it, he immediately said, "Give that man a raise," as he then pointed to the only male worker we had on the clock at the time. But my general manager then told him, "Oh, but he didn't make it, I did." Well, Mr. Karen then quietly took his pizza and left after hearing that. And sure, he still had to pay for the pizza, but at the end of the day, he didn't get the free food that he was hoping for. Oh man, I can see exactly what kind of person this guy is. Literally from the people he was pointing out to the person he was trying to praise for doing the pizza right. Even though, guess what? It was probably fine the first time. And the people he singled out probably had nothing to do with the other pizzas. So yeah, I love managers who step up like this and do what needs to get done so that everybody can walk away and not have to deal with this garbage. Because this guy was completely out of line. My dad keeps taking credit for my work that I'm literally doing so that he can become a deacon, as he constantly comes to me for any kind of help with his homework, practically guilt-tripping me into doing it all for him. And at this point, I'm exhausted and I have other things I want to do with my life, and I seriously now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my parents have been piling their things on me ever since I was a child, and honestly, I'm at a point where I'm genuinely over it. I'm a 22-year-old female and I'm the first daughter and child, and I've been the parentified child for as long as I can remember. I used to take care of my dad when he was blackout drunk, or memorize my younger sister's schedule, or play family therapist. I think you get the idea. I've spent my whole youth working for their businesses. They have one nail shop and 2 restaurants, and I was the one doing their paperwork and taxes. Though I'm grateful that I was able to work and at least earn some money when I turned 18, I genuinely feel sad when I think about how much I missed out in life because I had all of these responsibilities. However, the main issue is that recently my dad wants to become a deacon and enrolled in school. The only problem is that he gives me his homework and somehow expects me to do all of it. I write all of his papers, I answer all of his discussions, I make his presentations, etc. I keep up with his schedule and have to spoon feed him information about basic class stuff. My parents both guilt trip me as well, saying that, "Oh, he doesn't know better, so you should help him out." And when he does do it, he ends up just halfway doing it, which causes me to have to redo it anyways. It is his second semester and it has gotten to the point where he never checks his class website anymore and relies on me to check everything. I'm the one doing the readings and looking at emails. When he shows up to class or does group work, he proudly claims that my work was his own. I've brought up that I'm tired and that I have things of my own to do. I'm a straight A student in college and I'm graduating soon. This last semester is important to me. Whenever I try to tell them to do their own work, all of a sudden I'm the burden. I'm horrible, I'm a selfish daughter, but I've spent years trying to please them and I genuinely have nothing left to give. I'm not trying to abandon them altogether like they've accused me of, but I just want them to stop relying on me. I'm truly exhausted and I can't even say anything because the smallest thing turns into an argument for them. No matter what I do, it truly never can be enough. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, this is really sketchy because your dad can probably get in a lot of trouble. And he's doing himself no favors by not even learning the material he needs to know. From what I've been able to gather, becoming a deacon in this specific religion is akin to a lot of schoolwork that you would expect from college. It's not easy and there's a lot of things that go into it. So for him to be doing this dishonestly at that, in my opinion, for starters, is incredibly ironic, but also it's just completely dishonest. Wouldn't you want to know exactly what you're getting into instead of just trying to get good grades based on what your daughter does for you? I don't know, it just seems so backwards. If I was going to school to become a deacon or anything similar to that, you better believe I'm going to be working hard to make sure I'm refined for this job instead of just passing my classes, getting in the job, and then not knowing at all what I'm doing. That's not going to look good at all. People are going to know immediately that, hey, this guy probably cheated through school. And also, can't you get expelled for that kind of stuff? If it's anything like college or some kind of upper education, the second they find out that, oh, he's not doing any of his work, if he gets caught, that's going to put a really bad reputation on his record. And yeah, other schools are going to look at that and other employment opportunities are going to be like, yeah, let's pass this guy up because he's a cheater and he used his daughter. And that might even negatively affect the original poster too. I don't know. That just seems really sketchy. So I know if I was in your shoes, I would literally stop doing this and be like, no, I'm not doing your schoolwork for you. This is way too much. I'm drawing a line in the sand and I'm setting a boundary because I think at the bare minimum, this absolutely should be something something that your dad takes care of and doesn't rely on you to actually do for him, because at that point, you might as well be the one to sign up and become a deacon. So hopefully this all works out for you, because honestly, this sounds incredibly obnoxious. Today I had one of the worst days of my life, as I not only got scammed into helping someone move apartments, but I also nearly got robbed. Here's what happened. I want to start off by saying that sometimes I really hate the people of the state I'm born and raised in. I've got a truck, so I've been asked more than a few times since buying it to help friends and family move things. There's also a whole story involved in buying the truck about the previous owner's ex-wife, but I'm not going to go into details about that here. Anyway, last week, the cousin of a friend, someone I'd only been acquainted with twice, suddenly asked me for help with moving stuff out of his old apartment and into his new one. He was physically disabled and needed a cane to walk. The friend of a friend told me his cousin was disabled from a bad spine injury literally around a decade prior and had finally gotten into Section 8 apartments. They kind of played up the fact that he was disabled to get my help, so I reluctantly agreed. But then the guy was actually offended when I said I'd only help him if he paid me for my time and gas. And I seriously think he thought he could get help from me for free. But this was a guy that was a cousin to someone I'm not even close to, that was also friends with someone I'm barely close to. Some of my other friends called this guy a total Gary. I'm not sure if that's some new meme or an inside joke, and I don't really care either, but I will be using the name Gary just to make things easier. So I helped Gary to move after he agreed to pay me, but he acted completely butthurt when I refused to help unless he paid me in advance. I mean, I am not dumb. I could tell this guy would have tried to weasel out of paying me if I asked for the money afterwards. So he begrudgingly gave me $100 in cash for 2 trips of getting his stuff out of storage and into his new apartment. But he totally lied about the distance we would be driving. He said 20 miles, but when I put the address into the GPS, it was more like 35. I mean, I used most of what he paid me just to put gas in my truck, because I had multiple trips of driving this guy's stuff 35 miles each way. And by the way, that was 140 miles total. And on top of that, I was doing most of the heavy lifting because Gary couldn't do any heavy lifting because of his bad back. The apartment I was helping get the stuff to was also on the 3rd floor and only accessible by stairs. So that was a lot of painful lifting. Once all the stuff was finally unloaded, Gary wanted me and the friend of a friend who introduced me to him to stick around and help him unpack and arrange everything. I tried to be nice about it, but he kept insisting and told me that I have to help him since I gouged him for cash. I then got mad and pointed out I helped him for several hours and I honestly barely know him. If anything, I undercharged him, especially since he lied about how far we were going. Plus, he clearly didn't even want to pay me to begin with. He would have had to pay several times more if he hired professional movers. Plus, he was constantly rude to me the entire time, and I heard him call me a redneck garbage collector when he thought I wasn't listening. Then I told him what my actual job and salary is, and that I'm never going to help him with anything ever again. Gary then got really red in the face and walked out while he called me names and said he never wanted to see me ever again. I then said back the feeling was pretty mutual, and now that he's so far away, I'm probably not going to be seeing him ever again anytime soon, which I am very thankful for. I've also told my other friends about this, and they all agree Gary was completely out of line, and the friend of a friend who put me up to all of that hasn't even messaged me to apologize. I was incredibly mad after leaving and decided I was gonna get some beer and just go home and get drunk. I stopped at a gas station, I got the beer, and then I noticed a taco truck down the street. So I parked at the taco truck, ordered the biggest overpriced burrito they had, and then sat in their waiting area. As I was sitting there, I noticed some random guy in a plaid shirt just casually stroll up to my truck, reach in through the window, and he literally snagged a 6-pack of my beer. And then after he did that, he just started to walk away casually with it. I then yelled at him to put the beer back right now. He stopped and looked at me like a deer in the headlights, then tried to act innocent and claimed that he was walking home with his beer. I remarked that I was the owner of the truck that he stole that beer out of, and I literally just watched him do it. I then said to put the beer back before I started to call the police. He then actually started complaining that it was just a 6-pack of beer and I could easily go buy another one, but I told him it didn't matter what it was. He was a thief and an entitled one at that, and to put the freaking beer back before I got mad. He then dropped the beer back on my seat from the window. He then gave me the middle finger all before leaving. Then someone nearby remarked that the thief was a local homeless addict who acts like that to everybody, and he had gotten his butt kicked a few times in similar incidents. Well, I went back and I immediately closed the windows and I locked the doors on my truck. I then got my burrito and I scarfed it down. And I really should have been more surprised to deal with 2 really entitled people in one day, but frankly, I'm just not anymore. Also, I will never be getting food from a place like that again because that burrito somehow wrecked my insides. And normally I can handle eating anything, but I was in and out of the bathroom all night, marking making this day literally one of the worst things I've ever had to deal with in quite a while. Oh man, you had a really bad day. Like, there's no other way to put that, and I say that with as much sympathy as I can, but it really seemed like the universe on this day was like, okay, it's your turn. You get the blunt end of the stick, and there's nothing you can do about that. And I'm so sorry you had to deal with that. Like, seriously, that really sucks. And I know what you mean by having to move someone that you don't know, because I've had to do that so many times. And you hit the nail on the head. It seems like when you have a truck, everyone's like, oh yeah, you're my best friend suddenly. And even this would be so far of a stretch, it's not even funny. Like, seriously, the only people I'm ever moving with anything I have are people that I know personally, not random strangers that I know from a friend of a friend. That's stupid, and that's definitely not happening. So yeah, I think you win the award for having the worst day possible, because this sounded like an absolute nightmare. An entitled Karen and her demon spawn freak out on me after her kid breaks one of our iPads that we use for our business at a bowling alley. Things got so bad that she literally got herself and her kid banned from the bowling tournament that was going on at the moment, resulting in one of the greatest forms of karma I've ever seen in my life. Here's what happened. So I work at a bowling alley, and today we had a very large tournament, roughly 6 people on all 40 lanes. At the start of the day, it was nice and quiet until about 2 to 3 hours in. This kid, who was maybe 10 to 12 years old, that was sat directly in front of the front counter, had their iPad out, and the iPad ran out of battery. Well, the kid lost it at this point, practically screaming at his mother to charge it or to play on her phone. But you know what? She clearly didn't care. She basically told him to sit down and shut up. Now, the kid only did about half of that as he started walking around the counter. He then noticed the iPad that we have behind the counter, which is something we use to help keep track of reservations and parties going on in the bowling alley. Well, when he saw our iPad, his face lit up like it was Christmas morning. Now, as I always do, when a kid runs behind the counter, I stop them and I say, "Whoa, little buddy, you can't be back here." The kid then looked at me, pointed at the iPad, and said, "But I want it." But I responded by saying, "Sorry, little dude, but that's our important iPad. I can't let you have it." The kid then said to me, "Oh, okay," and then walked away. Now me, thinking that was the end of it, I went back to doing my usual stuff for my job, especially when it comes to having like a tournament going on in our facility. Fast forward to maybe about 5 minutes later, and I see out of the corner of my eye, the kid sneaking around the side of the counter and reaching out to the iPad. Once again, I told him he can't have it this time, with a bit more of a strict tone to it to tell him that I'm serious. With me still looking at him, he reached out more and more until he grabbed it and ran away. Luckily though, he didn't get far. He ended up tripping over one of the many ball bags strewn across the floor behind the bowlers. However, and unfortunately, he landed on the tiled off eating area, smashing the tablet on the ground. Naturally, the kid started bawling, and I rushed over to grab the iPad off the ground, only for some of the glass to fall out. Well, the mother was definitely not pleased about any of this. She looked beet red as she hurried over and shouted, "How could you hurt my little pumpkin?" I then explained the situation to her and how her child tripped and smashed the iPad, and she gave me the stereotypical response where she said to me, "My child is an angel and he could do no wrong." She then demanded that we pay her for a new iPad for her son. I then told her that's not how this works, and she started causing a scene. In fact, she was so loud that the tournament head came over noticing the commotion and asked what was going on, and obviously we both gave our sides of the story. He then said that since the damage happened during his tournament, he would reimburse us for the damaged iPad, but the mother, the son, and her bowler were all kicked out and the bowler was disqualified. And honestly, I feel bad for the bowler. I mean, he was doing pretty good in the tournament, but thanks to a crappy parent, it was all null and void. I talked with the official later on, and he said that she's been a problem at other places before for similar issues, and as such, she's always being too rowdy and not watching her kid. And apparently, she has been warned at their last tournament that if it happened again, her son would be disqualified from the tournament. And sure, I do feel bad about it, but honestly, oh well, because this entitled Karen and her demon spawn absolutely had it coming. Imagine being so entitled that you literally try to flip the script for something your stupid, idiotic 12-year-old kid actually did on their own. Like seriously, think about it for a second. This kid stole property that wasn't his, ran off with it, and then broke it on the ground, and then tried to cry wolf as if he got hurt somehow. And then the mom swoops in and says, "Oh, you're paying for this iPad." It's like, hey genius, not only is it not your iPad, but if anyone should have to pay for it, it should be her. And I totally get it. The tournament organizer's trying to be nice and trying to like bail you out or something like that. But seriously, that lady absolutely should have paid for that iPad. Those things are not cheap. And the fact that she just broke one, assuming it was hers, and then tried to be like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna pay me back for this." Like, I'm sure she was probably waiting for something like this to happen, because this just seems so immediate in my opinion. So good for you for being attentive and definitely putting your foot down, because this Karen and her stupid kid were completely out of line. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. I I've been dealing with these annoying spam callers for so long that I finally snapped and decided to return the favor, as I called them back hundreds of times, forcing them to get it through their heads that I don't want to talk to them. Here's what happened. Okay, so I recently scam called my scam callers and it got them to finally stop. They were calling 10 to 15 times a day, each time spoofing a US-based location, and had the exact same voicemail, which has forced me to need to delete my entire voicemail inbox literally 3 times weekly for at least a year. And trust me, this is extremely frustrating. So many calls during work meetings, important moments with my friends, etc. Every single time, it's the same voice message. They would say something like, "This is Jennifer from the senior underwriting team calling about your loan." And after doing some research, I found a post about this specific scam, and in one comment, a guy claimed to have scam called them back, and it finally got them to stop. So I thought to myself, why not? Let's see if it works. I called, I put myself on mute, and I hung up after about 5 to 10 seconds of them talking. And I did this exactly 266 times in 35 minutes, each time to the same number, and I cycled through 20 to 30 employees with accents from Australia to India to Mid-Atlantic, as well as at least 3 different company names they claim to be from, and many scripts. Sometimes they'd start one script, then mess up and start another one. Other times they'd just say hello, but the best one is when they would change mid-script what company they were claiming to be from. After about 150 calls, I started getting intermittently hung up on immediately after they answered the call, and I knew I was getting to them. Finally, at call 260, I reached the final boss. In a deep mob boss style voice, this guy said, and I kid you not, "Sir, you gotta stop with these spam calls. I mean, seriously, you gotta have something better to do with your time, right?" Now, this all happened Thursday, and you know what? I'm still riding the high to this day. Wow, it is so ironic that the people who were scam calling you tried to literally be like, "You're spamming our phone lines, you need to stop it." And it's like, okay, what about what you guys have been doing to me for so long? And the fact that they're leaving voicemails like that, in my opinion, is the worst part about it. They're flooding your inbox with useless crap, and they're seriously just bothering you for no reason. So good for you for getting some much needed revenge, because in my opinion, these people absolutely deserve it. Am I the jerk for kicking a homeless woman out of the hotel that I work at? As I really feel bad about doing this, and I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong. Here's what happened. Okay, so I work at a 5-star hotel, and more than a month ago, a woman came to the lobby at around 10 o'clock p.m. and asked if she could stay for a while inside. She was presentable and polite, so we agreed. At around 4 o'clock in the morning, she finally left, but the day afterwards, she came back with the same request, and again, we allowed her to stay and sleep for a while. That is, until she left at around 5 o'clock in the morning. This kept on repeating for the next days, and she started coming earlier, asking for food and drinks from the bar, and staying until later and asking for breakfast in the morning. We eventually got a warning from our supervisor saying that this cannot keep on happening, and the next day when she came again, which by the way, this has been going on for 3 weeks, we had to kick her out at around 2 o'clock in the morning. However, she just kept coming every single day. She has now been coming to the hotel every night for 5 weeks straight, where she has asked more than once if she could shower in one of the rooms, store her heavy bags which she carries every night, and even paid for a room which was more than $200 a night just for one of the nights. We have offered to help her several times, giving her recommendations for homeless shelters and the like, but she keeps on denying it. The reception team has even offered to get her a room at a cheap hotel, to which she says no, and she claims to have no friends or family that can help her out. The part I cannot understand is that she is always clean with clean clothing, she smells nice, and she's always polite. She often uses her MacBook and iPhone at the reception and has never disturbed anyone. I know from a logical point of view we can give her shelter and leftover food, but it's part of the hotel policy that no one can sleep in the lobby, not even any of the guests at the hotel. In the last few times we had to kick her out, she complains that no woman should be left alone in the streets at night, and it really makes me feel like a jerk to ask her to leave. So am I the jerk? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, no, you're definitely not the jerk. This is not your problem because literally you're just doing your job. This is not a homeless shelter. This is a place of business. This is a 5-star hotel that has standards. And so it makes perfect sense that your manager would be like, no, she can't sleep in the lobby. That's not good for business and I don't want that. So no, you're not the jerk in the slightest. I would not feel bad about this at all because there is options available for her that she can go to if she really is homeless. And for her to guilt trip you like that, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. My entitled stepmother invited her family to my graduation parties, quite literally all without asking me first, ruining the entire event and forcing me to want to cancel altogether. And at this point, I don't know if I'm in the wrong because now I'm incredibly stressed out. Here's what happened. I'm a 23-year-old female and I'm graduating college in May, and I'm 5 months pregnant with my first child, which for the record, I'm having with my 26-year-old male partner. My mom passed away when I was young, so I was raised by my dad. We've always had a solid relationship, but things have often been strained by his wife, who we will call Mary, who got married to my dad when I was 13 13 years old. Now, Mary is okay, but we've had tension over the years due to her doing some shady things when I was younger and our completely opposite political and religious beliefs. Still, ever since becoming pregnant, I've made an effort to be warmer towards her. I truly believe she cares about my child, and as someone who grew up lacking that kind of support, I want my son to be surrounded by as much love as possible. Mary offered to plan my baby shower, and I was grateful. Between being pregnant, my final semester of my degree, and managing my high blood pressure, I just didn't have the energy to plan it myself. She's never had children, and this may be my only one, so I figured it's a kind gesture. But things started getting uncomfortable when she began pulling more and more of her own family into the planning. Then she suggested throwing 2 baby showers, one for my people, meeting my friends and my partner's family, and one for her people, which would be extended and deeply conservative and frankly difficult family members. Now that really rubbed me the wrong way, especially since my graduation party had already been canceled due to money concerns. But still, I just let that go, partly to avoid conflict, and mostly because free baby stuff is free baby stuff. So I shifted focus to a similar graduation party, a small dinner with a few close friends and family, no more than 12 people, including my partner's family who still haven't met my dad. But you know what? Mary took that over too, inviting 8 of her family members without asking, and that really felt like a slap in the face. Now for reference, her family has never embraced me. I have always felt judged, ignored, or out of place around them. Over the past 10 years, they've never once asked how school was going or shown any support. And now I'm expected to smile through dinner with people who have treated me like a stranger while I'm pregnant, as well as overwhelmed and just trying to celebrate a huge milestone. It devastated me and I cried for days. And Mary doesn't take feedback well. She once canceled my Sweet 16 over an argument we had 4 months prior. I messaged her to say that dinner no longer felt like it was for me and that her guest list made it stressful, and let my people know that we'll do some separate gathering later. And to be honest, I'm still upset. It's not about just being mean. Her family can be unsafe. Her brother has mental health issues, has inappropriately touched my dog in front of everybody, including Mary, and you know what? She just laughed about it. I have 2 baby nieces and a child on the way. I will not risk having them around someone like that. If that causes drama, then honestly, so be it. So am I the jerk for being furious and canceling dinner? I know my pregnancy hormones are strong, but I feel like my boundaries are being trampled during what should be a joyful time in my life. What should I do? No, you're not the jerk at all. Mary sounds obnoxious and she sounds very controlling. And I think you trying to have like a baby shower with her, in my opinion, was like a last-ditch effort. It seems like this is you extending an olive branch for what has been a tumultuous upbringing. And once again, she has trampled all over that, and that is really not fair. It sucks that you have to deal with that, and I just don't blame you for being upset. So no, you're not the jerk. This really is supposed to be about you, and it's quite obvious that your stepmom is trying to make it about her. Am I the jerk for installing a lock on my bathroom door after my roommate started using it, despite the fact that we all agree that that bathroom is mine? Here's what happened. I'm a 26-year-old female, and I live with a 25 and 27-year-old male in a shared house that we rent. When we all first moved in here about 6 months ago, we all signed agreements on certain things. One of those things being that I will solely cover the cost of the water bill, but the spare bathroom in the house is mine. And this was all completely fine until about 2 weeks ago. My 27-year-old roommate, who I will call John for the sake of the story, recently started using my shower randomly out of the blue. I figured maybe they ran into each other and he needed a shower really quick for work, and I thought no biggie and that it wasn't that big of a deal. But this turned into John using my bathroom every single day, showering, going to the bathroom, shaving, and leaving hair everywhere, and honestly, I've had enough. So I cleaned the entire bathroom and I installed a lock on it with a key that only I have. After I did this, John sent a message to our group chat saying, and I quote, "Why is the bathroom locked? What is happening?" Now, in the days leading up to this, I spoke to my other roommate and he agreed with me that I should lock it and be done with it, and has zero issues with that one being mine per our agreement. When John first sent that message, I was just clocking into work, so I sent a quick, "Well, because I pay extra for that bathroom to be solely mine." And after that, I left my phone in my locker, and when I got on my break, I came back to a bunch of messages in our group chat with some of the highlights blowing my mind. He said stuff like, "No you do not. If I can't use the bathroom in our house, I might as well just move out." And he was essentially just throwing a fit about the entire thing. So seriously, am I the jerk for locking the door down? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. Like, maybe you could have talked to John ahead of time and been like, "Hey, can you not use that bathroom?" And then remind him of the agreement that you guys had when you first moved in, because that might have been like a good solution to this problem. But from the sounds of it, it doesn't seem like John would have like responded to that at all. And if anything, it probably would have made things just a little bit worse. So I understand why you went from like cleaning it up to then locking it down and being like, "No, you're not going to use it." And if this guy really is like, "Oh, I'm not going to live here anymore if I can't use that bathroom," at that point I would be like, "Oh, okay, off you go then. Like, there's the door if you really want to leave because everybody agreed to this stipulation. This is your bathroom while you guys are living here, and if he doesn't like it, then yeah, he probably should leave. So no, you're not the jerk because in my opinion, what you're enforcing with them is completely reasonable. Am I the jerk for telling my sister-in-law that I would leave my son's birthday party if she invited my husband's ex? Because this is seriously obnoxious, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, I really need an outside opinion because I seriously feel like I'm going crazy. My husband and I have been together for almost 10 years. He has a daughter from a previous relationship, and her mom left when she was little. She wanted to live life and signed over full custody. My stepdaughter and I have always had a great bond. She used to call me mama, would bake with me, play with my hair, help with everything around the house. And when my son was born, she was the most loving big sister. But for the past 6 to 8 months, things have changed. She started spending more time with her mom again, and slowly I became invisible. She stopped calling me mama, she got colder, more distant, and even corrected me in front of others. One day she said to me, "My real mom says only real moms get to decide things about me," and that really crushed me. Now I didn't argue and I just said nothing. I figured she was growing up and processing a lot. Around the same time, my mother-in-law, who is married to my husband's brother, reconnected with his ex, my stepdaughter's mom. They were childhood friends, and suddenly the ex was showing up at family gatherings, as well as Sunday lunches and birthdays. The same woman the entire family used to trash for walking out is now welcome like nothing happened. And at first I stayed quiet even though it really hurt. But then came my son's birthday. My sister-in-law was helping me plan the party, and during the conversation in my mother-in-law's kitchen, she casually said, "Oh, and your ex is bringing a little birthday gift for the birthday boy." And when she said this, I was stunned. I asked if she had invited her, and she said yes, because she's the mother of his sister and part of the family. I then calmly told her, if she shows up, I will leave with my son. I am not comfortable with that. She then called me insecure and said that I was being childish, and that she had been friends with my ex long before I entered the picture, that I'm just jealous because some woman can't handle their man's past. I walked away and I told my husband, and he understood how I felt, but he hates family drama and said he didn't want to take sides. Now, my sister-in-law is saying I'm ruining the party, I'm being selfish, and I'm trying to erase the mother of my stepdaughter. But this woman left her daughter behind. I stepped in when she was gone. I stayed up through every fever, every nightmare, every single birthday, and now she's re-entering like a hero while I'm pushed aside. What really broke me was when my stepdaughter said, "My mom promised that she'd sing me happy birthday with me and my brother. She deserves to be there too." I feel like no matter what I do, I will always be a placeholder. So I really need to know, am I the jerk for saying I'd leave my own son's birthday party if my husband's ex came along? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, this is so stupid it's not even funny, because I can't believe your spouse is not taking your side. This is not a matter of family drama. This is a huge violation of privacy and a massive boundary that everybody's just conveniently ignoring. And that's not fair for you. You literally do not deserve that, and the fact that no one's taking this seriously says volumes about this family. So it's like, you mean to tell me they would willingly let this person back into all of their lives, even though this person has made everybody's lives miserable? And I understand people trying to forgive others and move on with their lives, but it's especially annoying when you're like, okay, but I haven't found any solace or any kind of like, I don't know, resolution about any of this. So no, you're not the jerk for not wanting her there, and for saying that you'll leave with your son all because she might be there in the first place, because that really sounds super toxic, and I don't blame you for being upset. Am I the jerk if I remove a bridesmaid from my wedding party when I'm their maid of honor? Because right now they've made me very uncomfortable, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 32-year-old female, and I gathered my future bridesmaids the other day for wedding dress shopping. One of my bridesmaids, who we will call Cherry, was the second to arrive, and after giving her a formal "will you be my bridesmaid" gift, she made the comment of saying, "Well, we all know that I should be the maid of honor." This threw me off a bit because even prior to getting engaged, I've always been firm and clear with my friends that my BFF will be my maid of honor. What's more is that she said this in front of another bridesmaid bestie of mine, who we will call Skylar. I stated that it's rude to say that, since my position on who would be my maid of honor has been firm for years longer than my friendship with Cherry. Cherry then quit back that since I'm her maid of honor, it's only fair that she be mine, and then semi-sulked throughout the entire dress try-ons. Fast forward to the lunch, and it's now 3 of my bridesmaids and some family, and she asks loudly how much I'll be spending on my wedding. I state that it's a private matter between my fiance and I, and then she turns the conversation to her own wedding, which is, by the way, a year after mine, and how much money she's saved by buying used, how she's planning on spending $10,000, and that I should come to her for planning and advice. Now, I thank her and I reinforce again that my fiance and I will be planning our wedding based on our budget, as well as the venue and the vendor availabilities for our wedding. She then turns the conversations to bridesmaid outfits and colors, and as I'm doing a specific color scheme, I give her a color range to choose from. The dress choice choice is their own, as I want my bridesmaids to look and feel their best. Well, in front of everyone, she demanded that she have first choice of dress color and that she wanted someone else's palette range. At this point, I don't know what else to say, and she goes on to say that I'm her maid of honor and that she wouldn't do this to me, which by the way, she has given me zero choice on anything. When I got home later that day with Skylar, she made a comment that she felt pretty uncomfortable with Cherry, and I also received a call from my maid of honor with some concerns over her interactions with Cherry and how it felt like Cherry wants to be the center of attention for literally everything wedding related on my end. And I honestly can't say that I don't disagree with their feelings and perspectives. In reality, and this makes me feel like a jerk, I don't want to have Cherry in my bridal party, as I have other close friends that I want to be there with me. However, I feel obligated, as she made me her maid of honor and has been vocal about being in my wedding party for a few years of my relationship. I'm preparing to have a heartfelt conversation with her about this and set the expectation that if she continues with this path of statements and attitude, then I will have to remove her from the wedding party. So am I the jerk if I do this? I live a very much go with the flow kind of lifestyle, and I'm approaching the wedding planning with my fiance in the same way, and it's making me anxious having these kinds of conversations and interactions and energy involved in the process. So at this point, I'm so confused because I don't know what to do. Okay, no, I do not think you're the jerk at all. Cherry sounds obnoxious, and it seems like this is all premeditated because she clearly wants to be the maid of honor and no one else should in her opinion. And that is stupid. That's really dumb, and I just don't think you should have to deal with that. I do think that if you kick her out as a bridesmaid, you will also probably have to step down as maid of honor, because I could never imagine that working, and honestly, from the sounds of it, it doesn't seem like working with Cherry would be a pleasant experience in the slightest. An entitled Karen tries to claim that I did $2,000 worth of damage to her car when all I did was accidentally bump it with my door, resulting in one of the weirdest blow-ups I've ever seen from a person in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things off, I was parked getting out of my car when the wind blew my door open gently. It barely touched the car next to mine, and there was no visible dent and just a possible mark. Well, I immediately acknowledged it and I offered to exchange information. When I explained it was the wind, not to avoid responsibility, but just to clarify that it wasn't a careless act, this entitled Karen cut me off. She said to me, no, something like this happened before and it cost $2,000. My car is new. At that point, it felt less like she was assessing real damage and more like she was trying to guilt trip and manipulate me. She even pointed out a completely unrelated mark further down and insisted this was from my door too, which made no sense based on where the door touched. And then it escalated fast. She then started filming me and my toddler, who was crying in his car seat, scared and confused. She threatened to call the police, and I was trying to stay calm while juggling my phone, pulling up my insurance application, and soothe my child, but she just kept the camera on us. I could feel my son's distress behind me, and that's when I lost it emotionally and I called 911 myself. I didn't feel safe or respected, and I needed a neutral record of what was happening. After I gave her my info, I went back into the car to comfort my son, who by then was screaming and crying from the stress. I then looked up and she was still filming us. I was literally just trying to calm a scared toddler, and she kept her phone pointed at us like we were some kind of show, and that moment broke me. But you know what? It didn't stop there. When I showed her that I called 911, she told the police that I banged on her window, which was absolutely false. I simply held up my phone near the window to show her the call screen. She also accused me of locking my child in the car with no air circulation, which was so far from the truth it's not even funny. I was right there with the window cracked and the AC on. It was just another manipulation accusation meant to make me panic. She even lied about having the same insurance as me when I first mentioned mine, but it turned out she was with another one. It was just more weird, unnecessary power moves. I know she probably assumed that she could intimidate me because I'm an immigrant and English isn't my first language, and I look like someone who might not push back, but I didn't back down. I gave her my information, I made the call, and I stood my ground. My husband then showed up by Uber when I called him, and for the first time in the whole interaction, I felt not alone. I'm still feeling the stress hours later, but I am proud of how I handled it. I didn't yell, I didn't film her back, I didn't escalate, and I protected my son and I kept my dignity, because I want him to grow up knowing that we do not back down from unfairness. We do not let people shame us into silence. And even when our hearts are pounding, we still speak up, especially when you're dealing with Karens who act like this. Oh man, this Karen is so far out of line, it's not even funny. Seriously, think about it for a second. She's literally filming you guys and being like, wow, you're a terrible mother. You're gonna pay $2,000 for my door, while also trying to blame you for other marks that she did herself probably. Like, this level of unhinged is completely unacceptable, and I seriously just can't stand when people act like this. So regardless of what this lady says, I really hope you took a lot of pictures of the damage just so you can show the insurance company that she absolutely is lying to them, because this Karen was clearly trying to scam you out of a lot of money, and that is not fair for you or your family in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my roommate that she can't bring her boyfriend over unless he starts buying groceries, because he quite literally is eating me out of house and home, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so me and my roommate, who we will call Chloe, have been living together for almost a year. We split rent, utilities, and groceries 50-50, and it's been mostly fine until her boyfriend basically started living with us. Like, he's not officially moved in or anything like that, but he's here 4 to 5 nights a week, sometimes even more. He showers here, he sleeps here, and he eats all the time. He will make himself full-on meals with our shared groceries and not even ask us first. And before anyone says anything, yes, I've talked to her about it. I brought it up just kind of casually at first, where I would say to her, hey, do you think your boyfriend could pitch in for groceries since he's here a lot? But Chloe just laughed it off and said, oh, he doesn't even eat that much. For the record, my boyfriend comes over too sometimes, but he only eats food that I specifically bought, like snacks that I keep in my room or label, and he always asks before he does that. One time, he accidentally ate Chloe's leftover takeout from the fridge because he thought it was mine, and she absolutely flipped out, like full-on mad for a whole day kind of flipped out. I apologized and he offered to replace it, but she was still super salty towards him. Meanwhile, her boyfriend's making grilled cheese, eggs, ramen, helping himself to whatever's in the fridge, like it's some kind of free-for-all. I let it go for a bit, but last week I went to make lunch and I realized he finished the last of the eggs, bacon, and lunch meat that I bought, and that was my last straw. I mean, I'm a college student. I literally cannot afford this. I told her again, but more directly this time, that if he's gonna be here that often and eating our food, he needs to start contributing, or just not eat stuff that I paid for. Chloe got super defensive and said I'm being unfair, and that I'm gatekeeping food, and that I'm making things awkward when he's literally just existing. I said it's not about him being here. It's about him acting like he lives here without actually paying to live here. Now she's barely speaking to me and said that I'm ruining her vibe and making her feel like she can't have her boyfriend over. I'm seriously not trying to be controlling, but I also don't want to be feeding a third person for free. So did I overreact in this scenario? My boyfriend, my best friend, and my mom are the only people who know about this. My boyfriend and best friend are on my side, while my mom thinks this would be a stupid thing to end a friendship over, and I should just let it go before it turns into something bigger. What should I do? Okay, I am 100% on the original poster side here, because this guy's eating all of your food. This is a really simple solution, like Chloe's boyfriend needs to step up and start paying for his share, especially if he's here 4 to 5 nights a week. Like, at that point, you basically live here and you need to start contributing or get out. And it's the fact that he's polishing off all of your groceries, like that in and of itself would make me go crazy. I would be super frustrated, I would be really annoyed, and that would not be okay for me. Like, seriously, I would be super upset. So yes, you have every right to be pissed off, because what your roommate's allowing, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for going off on my friends after they made fun of my 9-year-old niece with really cruel jokes, which eventually led to her crying and breaking down? Here's what happened. Okay, so here's the situation. I'm a teenager and I was hanging out with a group of friends who love to joke around a lot, and I'm used to their sense of humor. It's sarcastic, edgy, and sometimes borderline mean, but I've known them long enough to know what's serious and what's not. My younger 9-year-old niece, however, is not used to that kind of humor. She wanted to talk to them while I was gaming or chatting with them, and I warned her and I said, you might not like them, they're not always the nicest people, but she insisted. She really wanted to join in and seemed really excited, so I agreed. But I specifically told my friends beforehand, hey, she's only 9. Please don't go too far or say anything mean. And when I said that, they agreed. Everything was fine for the first few minutes. She was talking with them and even singing a little. I went to the bathroom for literally a minute or two, and when I came back, she was on the bed crying and shaking. I asked her what happened, and she told me that they were making fun of her singing and saying mean things to her. I looked at the chat, and sure enough, I saw some of their comments, and they were sarcastic and really mocking. And I don't care if they say it was just jokes. She was clearly not okay. I told them, what is going on? I told you not to go too far. They replied by saying, we're just joking, quit being dramatic. And you know what? That just set me off. I said, no, she's a kid. You don't say that to kids. That's common sense. You guys are jerks. After that, I blocked them and I haven't spoken to them since. But they keep trying to spin it like I overreacted and can't take a joke. But I really don't think I was wrong for standing up for her. She is just a little kid who wanted to hang out and got emotionally wrecked instead. I know I went off on them hard, but I'm still furious about it. And honestly, if someone did that to your younger sibling or niece or cousin, wouldn't you go off too? So seriously, I really need to know if I'm the jerk, because I'm not sure sure if I took things a little too far. No, you're not in the wrong here, your friends are idiots. They also don't sound like good friends in the slightest because in my experience, people who constantly make these kind of jokes usually are not joking around. There's usually some kind of truth in what they're saying, but they're framing this as a joke even though they really mean it and they're just being jerks. So yeah, these people suck and you can definitely find better friends than this, because anyone who willingly makes a child cry, in my opinion, is a massive piece of crap. Am I the jerk for telling my friend that he can't be upset that a girl he had a crush on has a boyfriend? Because right now he's pissed off at me and is refusing to talk to me. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 22-year-old female and I was friends with this guy who's 25 years old, and he was telling me about his work crush. He said that she has the perfect body and her face isn't that bad. And for reference, I work with him, so I know he has never spoken to this girl. This girl 2 days later became friends with me, and I find out that she has a boyfriend. So I tell my friend because I thought it would save him the embarrassment of trying to ask out a taken woman. He then texts me and says he's really disappointed and wished that he didn't tell me that he had a crush on her because he didn't want to know that she had a boyfriend. He had told me he was going to ask her out, so he would have found out eventually anyways. And this makes me upset because why are you so upset when you never spoke to this girl and we've only worked with her for 3 days? She also rarely talks at work, so it's not like he could like her personality from that. And now I'm friends with her and I actually like her a lot, so it makes me even more upset that he would depersonalize her like that. I responded by saying, "You don't know her, how could you even care?" I then realized that was a bit mean, so I was like, "It's okay, I'm sure you'll find someone eventually." He then proceeds to ignore me for 2 days, so I text him and I ask if we're still on for hanging out tomorrow, since we said we would before that text. He responds back by saying no, so I tried to call him so that we could talk, but he declines it. I then texted him and he told me that he was upset because of the comment. I explained that, and as he knows since I have told him before, that I have been used for my body multiple times by men who don't care about my personality. So when he made that comment about her body, it really upset me. He responds by saying, "Stop texting me." And I was confused and I asked, "Okay, are you serious right now?" He then said, "Stop texting me, it's bothering me." And now I'm confused because that feels like a crazy reaction in response to my text. I know it wasn't nice, but to stop being friends with me altogether seems insane. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because I honestly don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk at all. Your friend is weird. You would think him finding out that this girl is taken would be like a relief of some kind, because then he really can avoid being embarrassed and like humiliating himself. And the fact that he's like cutting you off and acting like, "Oh, stop texting me, you're bothering me." This guy is clearly super immature, and I think you can find way better friends than this guy. Today, I messed up by meeting my girlfriend's family, who she told me multiple times was a messed up group of people. But despite the fact that I didn't believe them, once I met them, I realized very quickly how bad things truly were, eventually leading to me begging my girlfriend that we leave and never come back here ever again. Here's what happened. My girlfriend always described her family as people I would never want to meet in person because they were apparently the worst. I struggled to believe that anyone related to her was as bad as she made it sound, especially because she never wanted to tell me anything about her relatives, so I had nothing to go on. Well, since I recently flew all the way to South Africa to spend time with my girlfriend, I encouraged her to introduce me to her family. Well, my girlfriend agreed to take me to her mom and dad's house if I agreed to leave her family out of our relationship going forward, and I said I promised. Well, fast forward to my girlfriend deciding to drive me straight from the airport to her family's house, and I was unaware that we were on our way to meet the family until I paid closer attention to where we were, which was not where my girlfriend lived. My girlfriend said I wanted to meet her messed up family so bad, so she was about to introduce them to me. I said I didn't expect us to go on this journey as soon as I landed, but I guess we're gonna meet this messed up family one way or another. My girlfriend referred to the area we entered as the Cape Flats, which appeared to be a low-income community. As my girlfriend was driving deeper into the Cape Flats, she pointed at various groups of guys standing on different street corners and said if I wanted to avoid getting stabbed, then I should avoid going to those guys. One of the guys actually noticed my girlfriend and waved at her as we passed him. She waved back at him before telling me that she used to date that dude, but then he ended up going to prison for beating up one of her math teachers because said teacher made her come to school on a Saturday, which was supposed to be their day. By the time we arrived at our destination, I learned that I could get taken out and that my girlfriend used to be in love with a guy who might have been capable of doing that. Well, fast forward to meeting the family, and my girlfriend and I had to let ourselves into the house because everyone was too busy enjoying themselves by the cookout in the backyard. No one was sober when we showed up, and the dad welcomed me with a beer and asked if I had American money on me because he always wanted to see a dollar with his own eyes. So I opened up my wallet and I showed him a dollar. The dad showed the dollar to the rest of the family, including his wife, who then proceeded to put the dollar in her bra before telling me to come and get it. Well, my girlfriend then just looked at me like, well, I warned you, didn't I? So I made made peace with the fact that my money was most likely gone for good because I was not planning on going there just to get $1. My girlfriend eventually pulled me away from her parents and introduced me to her brother, who gave me a quick nod before shifting his attention back to my girlfriend and asking her if he could borrow her car to go out and get more alcohol. My girlfriend said that she was not giving the keys to her car to her intoxicated brother. Her brother pointed at his girlfriend, who was dancing on her own in the backyard, and said that she could drive because she only had 1 beer. My girlfriend asked her brother if he was referring to the young-looking girl who was twerking to a remix of My Heart Will Go On by Celine Dion. So I said that I would drive. And when I said that, my girlfriend and her brother seemed really surprised. I said I was willing to drive if the brother showed me the way. Well, my girlfriend then flat out asked me if I was attempting to impress her degenerate family. The answer was yes, but I said no. My girlfriend then sighed like she was pitying me and eventually gave me her car keys. So there I was, driving the brother, and he made me stop at several locations on our way to the liquor store. The first location was where we picked up his friend before going to the following location, which was where the herb supplier lived, if you know what I mean. The brother offered to share this with me if I promised to tell my girlfriend nothing about his side quest. Well, I didn't accept it and I made no promises. I was too stressed out about all the unplanned stops that we were making to even think about getting high and keeping secrets. The friend then directed me towards the nearest barbershop and got out. The brother promised me that we only had one more stop to make before going to the liquor store, and the final pre-liquor store location was where the brother's baby mama lived. The baby mama never answered the door when the brother came knocking, and I was relieved because it was obvious that no one was home, and I thought that meant that we could leave. But the brother continued knocking on the door and saying things to his baby mama, who he believed was pretending not to be home to piss him off or whatever. I didn't understand anything he was saying because he was speaking to his baby mama in another language, but he would turn to me from time to time and feel the need to tell me what was going through his mind at the moment. My girlfriend called to ask me where we were, and I said I would explain everything when I got back. Well, I eventually got back with the brother, who finally got the alcohol, and as soon as I saw my girlfriend again, I begged her to get us away from her family. Oh wow, this really does sound like a nightmare because my god, I think we've all been there to some degree. Here's the thing, if you have someone that you love and care about, and they really tell you like, listen, my family is messed up, let's not go there, then I think it would probably be a good idea to listen to her because she probably knows a lot more than you. It's also crazy to me that this guy literally agreed to drive this brother around a town that he's never been in. Seriously, from the sounds of it, this brother sounds like one of those people across the street who could get him taken out. Like, what was this guy thinking? That is so stupid. So yeah, this really was a big mess up, and hopefully this doesn't happen in the future because this is not a mistake that you want to make twice. Am I the jerk for asking my mom to pay to attend my wedding after she nearly blew me off and said that she couldn't afford it? Because right now I'm not sure if I'm making a mistake, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my mom chose to abandon her parental rights when I was 10 months old to be with a man that she met and moved states away. She came back into my life when I was 4 years old after they broke up and was in and out of my life my entire childhood. When she would come back into my life, she was extremely awful both emotionally and physically. My father was also not perfect. He was an alcoholic. I had been put into foster care a few times, and my mom never showed up to any of the court dates. When I was 14 years old, she found God and remarried an extremely hardcore religious man that she met at church. And needless to say, her husband has always hated me, told me that I couldn't live with them because I didn't follow the path of God, and they've never helped me with anything financially, and she never even paid child support. Well, fast forward to 2 years ago, and her husband have had 3 daughters, ages 12, 10, and 7 as of right now. And it's then that my mom asked me to buy her restaurant for $25,000. It started to get to the point where she was begging me, trying to tell me that it was a great business investment, that she had so many offers and wanted to keep it in the family. And she said I would make easily $100,000 a year. She didn't know her husband had texted me months earlier saying that their business was failing and he wanted me to help them turn the business around. So I told her I was sick of her only contacting me when she needed something. She then had my sisters to call me and leave me voicemails asking why I was ignoring them and wouldn't come visit. I got engaged in June of last year, and my fiance's family offered to put in $15,000 for the wedding. My dad matched that, and my fiance and I are putting in around $10,000. My fiance has a huge family, and I only have about 10 people on my dad's side. My mom found out about our wedding from Facebook and offered to fly out my aunts, her daughter, and both of my grandparents. They all live in Thailand, so I was really grateful to be able to have them there. I've always had a pretty good relationship with them and wouldn't be able to afford to pay for all of their flights here without her. I was ready to bury the hatchet just to have them attend, but my dad's family made it very clear that they didn't want to pay for her and her family. I then asked her if she could just pay for herself, her husband, and her family, and she told me that she could only give me $1,000 because she has to pay for her kids' private school. Well, with catering, the bar, and rentals, everything ends up being about $250 a person. When I told her this, she said that I should expect that everything else would be paid off by gifts from the guests. Now, I don't want to seem ungrateful and selfish for telling my own mom and family that they can't come to my wedding because they won't give us any money, but I really did not want to have other people, especially my father, pay for her to be there when she's never helped me with anything in the past. So am I the jerk for telling her that she can't come unless she gives me more money? Because right now I'm honestly not sure what to do. Okay, to be completely honest, I don't even know why you're even allowing them to show up in the first place. Your mom sounds obnoxious and it sounds like she really is just not a good person. She was not there for you growing up and it seems like she's just not there now. So the fact that she's not willing to pony up like everybody else has, in my opinion, shows everything that you need to know. And in my opinion, that means that she shouldn't even be there, especially if she's not willing to pay what everybody else is. Am I the jerk for telling my girlfriend that she needs to clean more if she's not going to be getting a job anytime soon? Because right now she's saying that I'm being unreasonable, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. My girlfriend and I have been together for 4 years and have been living together for around 2. She had a part-time job up until January or so, working 2 to 3 days per week, but she quit because she couldn't stand working there any longer. Now, I, on the other hand, work a full-time job. I have a full-time college schedule, even though all the school is online, but it still requires around 4 hours of work per week. Anyways, I don't mind being the provider, but I don't want some traditional wife who's only there to cook, clean, and look pretty. However, I feel I'm putting in 40 hours of work a week and 4+ hours per week into school. So the least that she could do is pick up around the house, namely do the laundries or do the dishes. I go to work from 9 to 5, then we go to the gym, and then I come home and I cook for us. Every time I try to express that our effort feels one-sided, she says that I'm being unfair and that she shouldn't be the only one doing these things around the house, which I agree with to an extent, but she does nothing worthwhile while I'm at work. She'll sleep, lay in bed on her phone, or play video games. I just don't know how to work something out. Her friends are also taking her side and say it's unfair for me to ask her to clean, but I really don't understand how that's unreasonable to ask. So truly, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I'm still incredibly frustrated. No, you're not the jerk. Honestly, this seems completely reasonable in my opinion, and I think she really could step up and like try to take care of the house more at least while she's not working. And also, let's be honest for a second. I kind of see it as a big red flag that she quit her job all because she didn't want to work there any longer, but she only worked there like what, 2 to 3 days per week? Like that's not really that bad. Like seriously, there's no reason to quit after that. Unless this job is like some kind of like actual nightmare that we're not aware of. Because for me, 2 to 3 days of work a week would not be that bad. I could do that no problem at a part-time schedule. Like, are you kidding me? So no, you're not the jerk for asking her to clean more, because in my opinion, that is the bare minimum that she should be required to do. My boyfriend left me out of a family trip that he was going on to Japan, as he literally told his family that he doesn't want me to go, while also claiming that I would ruin the trip because apparently I'm a pain to go on vacation with. And now after all of it's said and done, I feel so heartbroken that honestly it's making me question everything. And at this point, I honestly don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I've been with my boyfriend for 3 years, and this situation has been weighing heavily on me for the past 6 months. Back in August, my boyfriend's family started planning a trip to Japan. At first, I thought it was just a family trip, but then weeks later, I found out that one of his siblings' girlfriends was invited. It felt strange that only one girlfriend was included, but I tried to let it go since it seemed like a family holiday. 2 months later, I saw a text message from his mom. It mentioned me, and his mom said, "Are you sure she definitely is not coming to Japan?" And he responded by saying, "No, definitely not." And you know what? I had no idea she had even asked me about joining. Well, I was hurt and I confronted him about it, and his reaction was to be defensive. He said things like, "You're a pain to be around on the holidays. I don't want you there because you'd ruin the trip. And yeah, I told my family I didn't want you there." He also said both the other girlfriends were going, but I was the only one left out, and that he was glad about it. This then led to me completely breaking down, and I went nonverbal for hours, but he dismissed my feelings, calling me immature for being upset. Now, my reasons for it being wrong was that he lied to me, clearly lied to his family about asking me, and being completely isolated from his family and other girlfriends. Now, for context, the girlfriends have been in the family for 10+ years, and they all live in the same area and grew up there. Well, I eventually forgave him, even though I still felt terrible about it. But over the last 6 months, we've argued about it repeatedly. I just wanted him to acknowledge how wrong it was and to genuinely express regret or remorse. But instead, I've only received what felt like empty apologies, saying how sorry he was, but with no action or responsibility. This weekend, he went on the trip, and I've been struggling to control my emotions. The idea of him and his family and the girlfriends having dinner on holiday, making memories of a lifetime while not including me, honestly feels unbearable. I feel like I'll always be left out and that I'll have to hear about it for the rest of my life. When I brought it up again, he apologized and said that he had wished he had handled it all differently, but he said he can't change it now and that he would say he wants me there but doesn't want to make me feel worse about not being there. But it doesn't feel like he regrets what happened or even wishes that I was there. I'm still haunted by the things he said back then, and I feel like I'm not valued in his life the same way I value him. I'm struggling with whether or not I'm overreacting. Am I wrong to still feel hurt about this situation? Should I just suck it up and get over it? Or is it reasonable to still be upset after all this time? I love him so much, and there's a lot of reasons I've pushed through these feelings because he is worth it, but I feel like he doesn't really care about my feelings and the effect this situation has had on me and my self-worth. What should I do? Okay, my God, what is going on right now? Why are you still with this guy? I don't normally say that, but seriously, this guy does not sound like a good boyfriend. He's clearly not in love with you. If anything, he's just stringing you along. He openly said, "You're a pain to be with on vacation. You're just gonna ruin it. I don't want you there." Like, what loving boyfriend in their right mind would say that to their girlfriend? Like, seriously, this guy sucks. If I was in your shoes, I would be immediately breaking up with him. Like, I know for a fact if my family was going on vacation, my girlfriend would be the first person I take on that trip, especially if I really care about her and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be so much fun for the two of us. If anything, he's treating you like an annoying best friend that he secretly hates instead of your girlfriend who he should be caring about. So truly, I am so sorry that you're dealing with this, and I'm so sorry you're dealing with an immature jerk like this who's claiming to be your boyfriend, because in my opinion, this guy is not that. He doesn't give a crap, he doesn't care about anything that you're doing, and worst of all, it doesn't sound like he has any regrets for not inviting you. It really seems like this is like some kind of half-hearted apology where he's saying it out of obligation instead of like actually meaning it. And in my opinion, you don't deserve that, and you definitely deserve a way better boyfriend than this guy, because from the sounds of it, it really does not seem like he likes you in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for continuing to post on Instagram after my boyfriend said it's starting to affect our relationship? Here's what happened. I'm a 26-year-old female and I've been dating my 27-year-old boyfriend for close to a year, but lately we've been having the same argument over my Instagram usage. It never used to be an issue, but recently he started saying it's affecting our relationship in ways that are bothering him more and more. I've always been into posting on Instagram, and it's just something that I enjoy. I like documenting little things like food when we go out, outfits I feel good in, or just moments I want to remember. It's not some influencer thing or anything like that, but I like having a creative outlet. He knew this from the start and never seemed to have a problem with it until recently. I haven't really changed my habits up until this point, but now he's saying it feels like Instagram is becoming a third person in the relationship. He says it's getting to the point where he feels like he can't enjoy a meal or go out without it turning into a mini photo shoot. I'll ask him to take a couple of pictures, and sometimes I want to try a few angles or poses, and I guess I can understand how that might feel like a chore. He's told me it takes him out of the moment and makes him feel like he's just behind the camera while I focus on getting content. He's also mentioned feeling annoyed when I spend time editing or writing captions instead of being fully present, which I don't even do when we're out. Another thing that came up is when I post photos of myself in more revealing outfits. I don't do it often, but there has been the occasional post with a tight-fitted dress or something that I would wear in the summer. I felt confident and I liked how I looked. Well, he told me it makes him uncomfortable and that he feels weird about the kind of attention these posts might attract. I've reassured him that I don't reply to DMs or engage in that kind of stuff, but he still says it bothers him and it makes him feel insecure. He's now saying it's starting to affect how he feels day to day. He says it makes him feel more distant from me, like I care more about what I'm posting than being in the moment together. He's not asking me to delete my account or anything like that, but he's clearly frustrated and says if things keep going the way they are, it's going to push us apart. I've been trying to understand his side, and I've made some effort to cut back a bit when we're spending time together, but at the same time, I feel like I shouldn't have to stop doing something that I enjoy just because he's uncomfortable with it. I don't post anything wild, I ignore all the direct messages, and I don't think I'm doing anything disrespectful. I've told him that if it ever feels like too much, he could just tell me and we can figure it out. But now I feel like he's expecting me to completely change how I use social media just to try and make him feel better. So am I the jerk for continuing to post even though it's clearly bothering him? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, I think everybody sucks here, because on one hand, your boyfriend absolutely should not be policing your Instagram, but also it seems like you're not willing to make any kind of compromise. It seems like you're willing to say, oh, he's wrong, he doesn't know what he's talking about, while also saying in the same breath, but I'm never gonna change. And it's like, wait a second, there's like no middle ground that you might be able to come to. Like maybe if you're going on a date together, you don't sit there and take a bunch of pictures or something like that, and instead spend time together as a couple. Like for me personally, that absolutely could be a good compromise. So in my opinion, I think there needs to be a little bit more wiggle room from both of you, because I seriously think you're both acting immature, and it doesn't seem like either of you are trying to see the other person's point of view in the slightest. An entitled jerk chooses to use his phone on speakerphone while also loudly shouting in it while I'm trying to use the bathroom. So I got some petty revenge that he truly will never forget. Here's what happened. Okay, so I was at Walmart and I was sitting in a stall tending to my business when the bathroom door opened and a man talking on his phone entered the bathroom. And this guy was talking really loudly. Like it was seriously as if he was yelling into his phone, and he had the phone on speakerphone with the volume jacked all the way up. Now normally I really just don't mind or even care about this kind of scenario, but as the minutes dragged by and the conversation showed no signs of slowing down, I started getting really annoyed. 5 minutes later, when I finished my natural duties and I got out of the stall, this guy was still yelling into his phone. So I said to myself, fine, you want to be loud and obnoxious in public? Well, game on. I washed my hands and like any other guy, I turned the hand dryer on. Now the hand dryers at this store are super loud, and the one I was using was placed in a spot where it emitted a shrill, high-pitched sound if the user held their hands close enough to the nozzle, and it echoed off the walls. So I made sure to take an extra long time drying my hands, guaranteeing that not a drop of water remained on my hands. Well, the guy had left his stall and exited the bathroom before I finished, holding the phone to his ear. And sure, it was incredibly petty, I know, but for me, it was also super satisfying. Oh man, I love this for so many reasons, because seriously, I can't stand when people talk on speakerphone in public, let alone when they're yelling into their phone for everybody to hear. Like seriously, get some headphones or talk on the phone normally. There's no reason to drag everybody else into your stupid conversation. So good for you for getting some petty revenge, because this guy sounded like he absolutely deserved it. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for breaking up with my girlfriend after she proved to be completely incompatible with me and my life goals? Here's what happened. I'm a 21-year-old male and I was in a relationship with my ex for almost 2 years. Recently, I broke up with her and her friends are saying that I'm the jerk for breaking her heart. For context, we met through a mutual friend back when I was 19 years old, and in our country, we have to attend college for 2 years and then university for undergrad and postgrad. And back then, I was in college. We lived in different cities around 6 hours apart, and I fell for her at first glance, and I expressed that pretty quickly too. We then started dating, with the initial 6 months being long distance. Then she moved to my city for better opportunities at university, and I was over the moon. Her parents were financially comfortable, but still she was having trouble making ends meet. So I started covering her rent, groceries, and other things. I tried to fulfill her every wish. Now her ex, with whom she was in a relationship with for only 2 days, was the main problem in our relationship. When she moved here, she invited him in our hangout without even informing me first. But at the time, we sorted that out back then. When university selections were rolling out, I got selected for the top university in our country, and she didn't get any. Her only option was to attend community college or attend a private university, which was quite expensive. But when she didn't get selected, she ended up breaking up with me. But then she came back blaming those words on her mental state. After a while, she said that she can't move on from her ex, and so she wants to leave me. And when she said this, it really broke me, which then led to me starting the pick me dance. And somehow I managed to convince her to be with me. Things were going great, but I have severe anxiety as well as ADHD and PTSD. And when she failed her last exam, she actually blocked me, which caused me to have a panic attack. And this was so bad that I had to go to the emergency room. When she got in contact with me, I told her I was in the hospital, and her reaction was to say, okay, well, a lot of people go to the ER. That's nothing big. And even still, she blamed everything on her emotions and mental state. After moving out, she was constantly saying that I need to marry her and get her into a private university. But I would respond by saying, well, I can get you into a community college or maybe a cheaper university. But she always said, well, if you're not capable enough to fund my education and my dream lifestyle, why would I be with such a worthless guy? If you want to marry me, you have to get me into the university that I say, and you have to cover all the expenses. So after that fiasco, I broke up with her. And now her friends are saying I broke her heart and her dreams. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now, I'm still incredibly confused. Oh my gosh, your ex-girlfriend sounds insane. And in my opinion, she should stay your ex-girlfriend. First of all, she does not sound loyal at all, because when her life was going sideways, she's like, okay, this is your fault and I'm leaving. While also basically giving you an ultimatum, essentially stating that you need to get her into the university that she wants to go to. And that, in my opinion, is just insane. Like seriously, that's some weird behavior. So it really begs the question, Like, do you really want to be with someone like that? Because from the sounds of it, this does not sound like a sane person. It doesn't sound like someone who would ever love you long-term like a wife should. And if anything, it sounds like someone who would dump you to the curb at the first sign of conflict. So honestly, who cares what her friends think? If her heart's broken and her dreams are shattered, and she's blaming that solely on you, then they were clearly not dreams to begin with. If anything, it was just her own delusional manipulation that clearly fell apart. So no, you're definitely not the jerk. This lady sounds crazy and you could do way better than her, because in my opinion, she is only gonna drag you down. An entitled jerk that I play soccer with gets me banned from the organized events we have on a weekly basis, all because I scored on him twice in a game. So now I'm concocting my own petty revenge by literally organizing against them through an application that I'm developing, and I'm truly hoping that this hits them where it hurts. Here's what happened. So I usually play soccer in a weekly matchmaking style game organized by a local team at the nearest field. The format is simple. Anyone can join even if you don't know the other players. It's perfect for someone like me since I don't have many friends who are into soccer, and organizing a match on my own isn't really an option. That field is my favorite, and unfortunately there are no other decent ones nearby, as the other ones are just way too far away. During my last match, I scored 2 goals against a goalkeeper who apparently just didn't take it well. This same goalkeeper, who also happens to be a friend of the event organizer, reported me for allegedly saying something negative about the organizer, which is completely false. I didn't even interact with either of them during the match. Well, a few days later, the organizer called me and told me that I was banned from the event. Now, I tried to explain the situation, but he wasn't interested in hearing my side. I spoke to the field owner, someone I know really well, who respects me for my fair play, but he told me there was nothing he could do, as he isn't the one organizing the event. But now, here's where things might get interesting. For months, my co-founder and I have been developing an app for soccer fields. It allows players to join matchmaking games and play with friends more easily. I've already spoken with a field owner, and he's agreed to use our platform once it launches, which is along with other field managers. That means we'll have access to a wide base of users, including the kind of players who attend these kinds of matches. So, given that, I'll soon have a degree of control over how matchmaking happens, and I think this might be my way of getting some interesting revenge. Keep in mind, I have the full names and phone numbers of both the organizer and the goalkeeper. I considered banning them from the app, but that feels like it's just not enough. And so at this point, I'm considering my options, because this really could be the best revenge I could possibly come up with. Oh man, the fact that you have some kind of way of affecting their entire organization, in my opinion, is really funny, especially if this application takes off and people really use it. Like, you could easily start messing with them in a way that they have no control over, especially since they banned you for illegitimate reasons. Like, why should you get banned all because that guy has sour grapes because you scored on him? It's honestly unfair, and I don't blame you for being pissed off. And hopefully you get your revenge in some kind of way, because these people absolutely deserve it. Would I be the jerk for excluding a family that has a badly behaved autistic child who is quite literally violent towards other neighborhood kids during the pool party? Because right now I'm honestly not sure what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I host a monthly pool party and barbecue for the neighborhood families in my area. I buy about $200 in steaks, hot dogs, and drinks, book the community party room, and send out invites and reminders. And this has become a great way for the adults to connect and catch up while all the kids swim and play. Unfortunately, one of the neighborhood boys doesn't behave appropriately. He splashes kids in the face when they ask him not to, pushes kids into the pool, calls them names, growls at kids when they win a game, doesn't follow the rules of games, and so much more. It's unpleasant for the other kids, and he makes the younger ones cry. His mom yells and screams to take him home, but she doesn't, and so he continues misbehaving. While I'm not well informed on autism, however, my stance is that the parents are responsible for ensuring their kids behave appropriately or removing them altogether. Instead, other parents have to get involved to yell at the kid to leave theirs alone or comfort their crying child. Well, after the last party, 2 of the kids asked me not to invite that boy again because apparently he ruined the day for them. And you know what? I agree with them. And I believe that as part of my responsibility of hosting is to create a guest list of people who add positivity to the event. Well, my husband disagrees, because for starters, he thinks that I should first bring up the issues to the boy's parents and give them one more chance, while also saying that we can't exclude them since it is a community pool, not to mention that he's also just conflict avoidant and doesn't want to ruin relations with the neighbors. So seriously, what do you think? Would I be the jerk if I didn't want to bring these people to our pool party anymore? Because right now I don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk at all, and in my opinion, this should absolutely be something that is easily taken care of. They should be banned from any further interactions you have until those parents take care of the kids, especially around a pool. Like, you don't mess around with any kind of water and kids, because seriously, someone's gonna drown. Like, that is literally what's gonna happen, and that is not okay. And just because he has autism doesn't mean he gets a free pass to be pushing kids into the pool. That needs to be corrected by the mom, and the fact that she's not taking care of it is absolutely a red flag. So yeah, if I was in your shoes, I would have banned that kid and his family yesterday and told him that he is straight up not welcome at any of our get-togethers because he's been violent towards other kids. Because that kind of behavior, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for canceling several plans after a work friend lied about being confused over which shift that she was covering? Here's what happened. Okay, so here's the problem. Both me and the friend are over 35 years old and we work for a major airline. It's also important to note that I'm a gay man. Sometimes when our schedules are published, we will agree to trade our trips around amongst friends. I messaged this friend and offered her a trip with a nice layover, and she agreed that she would take it. 2 days later, when trading became available, I sent her the trip as soon as the system opened and followed up via text messaging just to let her know to pick it up. Well, she attempts to pick it up and then makes it clear that she can't do it because she was awarded a trade with a different system that was for a trip that, conveniently enough, she had really wanted but wasn't able to outright hold. And sure, I know this is complex, but to further explain, this would have been something that she would have done consciously for it to even happen in the first place. So I point out that she could trade out of the trip and could then pick up the trip that she committed to from me, but she refuses. Then she adds that she really wants this trip and assumed that I had been referring to a different trip on my schedule. Now, I did push back and said that she'd agreed to take this trip and that in the future, if we agree on something like this, I would expect her to follow through. I look back at our text messages and there was no way that she could have been confused because she confirmed the trip date in our text conversation, and I so dislike being gaslit. Well, we were supposed to have dinner later that week, which I had intended on going through with and having a discussion with her about this, but I ended up being filled with anxiety that day and I had to cancel a few hours prior, which I did feel badly about just because I didn't want to waste her evening. During this time, I've also been experiencing some serious GI issues for months, which ended up with a visit to the emergency room a few weeks back. We had made plans to go on a trip, but given this health issue and her dishonesty, I made clear several weeks out that I would likely be unable to go, and today I confirm my unavailability. She's since been very distant, and when I mentioned being unable to go the first time, she said to me, well, I haven't even looked to see if I've got the days off, as if she doesn't even care that we had plans or that I had booked a hotel using my free night award to do so and asking nothing from her in return. I have been a good friend to this person, supporting them through a roommate situation that she was very upset about, answering long-winded text messages voicing her frustration, basically being her emotional support. I've even driven this person around to view different neighborhoods, going as far as looking into the place they moved into and assisting them into getting a little bit off of their rent. So with all that in consideration, am I the jerk for withdrawing given this kind of behavior on her end? Because seriously, I don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, I don't blame you for a second for taking a step back because this kind of behavior is super obnoxious. Seriously, let's think about it for a second. It really seems like they're taking advantage of you, and that, in my opinion, is not fair. It sucks that they're literally just taking for granted all of your options for them, as well as all of your time and attention towards their needs, while also refusing to do the same towards you. Like, what is that about? That really sucks. And I think you've hit the nail on the head. She's pretending not to know what's going on as some kind of cover-up to get away with her poor behavior. So no, I don't think you're the jerk, and I think you're completely justified to distance yourself from this friend, because clearly they do not value your friendship in the same way that you do. And that is not fair for you in the slightest. Today, I realized that my nail salon has been scamming me out of so much money, as they are constantly changing the price. So I decided to get some revenge by quite literally leading a revolt by telling everybody else around me how much I was being charged, causing all the other customers to realize that they were getting scammed as well. Here's what happened. Okay, so I got my nails done this morning at the same nail salon I've been going to for almost 2 years. It has well over 1,000 great reviews online, and they've always done amazing work. They don't post their prices anywhere, but I've always paid about $50. However, it hasn't been consistent, as in sometimes I would be asked to pay $50 and other times later pay $40. When I asked about the price, usually when it was $50, they would say I got a nice discount at $40 and that the standard was $50. The $10 never bothered me, so I never made a fuss about it, and I kind of chalked it up to more inexperienced front desk workers not tracking well to the established price. I also have gotten into the habit of asking the price before they start, but I forgot to ask this time because I was just getting my normal nails done. Well, today as I finished up my appointment, the front desk told me that it was $70. I was surprised because I got them done last month and I'm pretty sure it was only $40. The lady said that the prices went up, which I felt should have been stated somewhere, but I know that businesses are nervous about the economy, so I understood a hike. I paid my bill and internally decided to find a new salon, not because they did anything wrong, but paying $70 for nails isn't worth it for me, while they're are cheaper places around. After I paid, I realized I left something at my seat. I had been quietly chatting with the lady sitting next to me during our appointments, and we were getting the exact same service in different colors. As I went to grab my bag, I couldn't help making a quiet comment to her that $70 for our nails is crazy. Yes, this was a complaint, but also I wanted to warn her about what to expect. She immediately got agitated and asked her nail tech how it could be this much because she never paid more than $30 for the service. She then looked like she was going to cry and said she didn't have $70 for the service today. Her nail tech quickly tried to do damage control and said that since she was such a loyal customer, her price would be $30. This didn't really calm her down though, because she asked how long I'd been going there, and I said 2 years, and she said she'd been coming here for less than a year. At this point, other customers at the busy salon started paying attention to what was going on, and about 8 other people started sharing what they paid for their nails, and it ranged from $30 to $70. At that point, I had my bag and no reason to stay, but as I left, almost the whole salon was getting heated, with everyone realizing that they actually don't have a set price for their services and just charge as much as they can to get out of you. I will definitely be leaving a review, and something really tells me that the other people definitely will be leaving one as well. Oh man, this is seriously so messed up, it's not even funny. These people have literally been scamming you for what, 2 years now? So do they just literally make up the prices as they go? And they say, okay, this would be a good price, and just say, yep, this is what you're paying today. Like seriously, that is super sketchy. So good for you for making a fuss about this, because these people, in my opinion, absolutely deserve it. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not covering my friend's meal when she literally ordered way more than everybody else? Because now she's saying that I embarrassed her in front of all of our friends, and at this point, I'm pretty pissed off and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so me and a group of friends went out to eat after our midterm. It was a casual place where you pay at the end, and everyone was ordering whatever they wanted. I got something small as usual because I'm trying to save some cash. So I had a water and a basic pasta that was on special. A few others did the same, but one of my friends ordered an appetizer, a big entree, and a dessert, and she got a big drink too. Now, no judgment, she can do whatever she wants, but it definitely added up. When the check came, she suddenly says, let's split it evenly. And I was like, what? I thought we were all paying for what we ordered. She said it would be easier and that it's what we always do, which is not true, by the way. I told her I only brought enough for what I ate plus a tip, but she just rolled her eyes and said it's not that deep and that I'm being cheap over a few bucks. But it wasn't a few bucks. It would have almost doubled what I was planning to spend. Well, I didn't budge and I paid for only my stuff, whereas my other friends didn't care and split the bill evenly. Now, as a result, she's being super passive and told our other friend that I embarrassed her in front of everyone and that I made her look greedy, but like she assumed we'd cover part of her extra food without even asking. So am I the jerk in this scenario? Because right now I'm still pretty pissed off. No, you're not the jerk at all. This lady's an idiot. She literally ordered way more food than everyone else, and then she has the audacity to be like, oh, let's split the bill. And this is not because she wants to share the cost, mind you. She's only doing this because she doesn't want to pay for all of the stuff that she got, and instead wants to spread it around so everybody else picks it up. And that is so dishonest. Like seriously, that is so messed up. You don't deserve that. So no, you're not the jerk for denying that request, because in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for getting an autistic kid and his family kicked off the flight after this 13-year-old kid literally attacked me on the plane? Here's what happened. I'm a 26-year-old male and I recently went on a vacation with my wife. Now for some context, we had just gone on a 1-week vacation, and on our flight back, it got canceled. This was a huge airport. All the flights were canceled, and there was a 24-hour wait for any hotel within a 2-hour drive. So we spent the first night at the airport, then got a hotel for the second night. When we came back for our rescheduled flight, it was delayed for a few hours, so we were both on edge. While waiting at our gate, I noticed a kid around 13 years of age kicking and screaming. At one point, he threw his phone at someone sitting next to him really hard, and that person eventually got up and left. After we boarded our flight, I noticed the kid was 2 rows in front of us, and before we even took off, he was already screaming and punching. We were in the second to last row, and the people behind us offered to switch seats with the kid and his family, and at that point, I was already thinking about how long this flight would be. Well, they switched, and the kid was now right behind me. Before we even took off again, he threw a bunch of popcorn over his seat, all over me and my seat. He was still screaming, so you know what? I called over a flight attendant. She helped me clean up, and not even 2 minutes later, the kid grabbed my hair and pulled it back really hard. Now I'm 6'4", so my head was over the chair, so I immediately yanked the kid's hand off of my head really hard. At this point, the mom, who hadn't said anything yet, started yelling at me to not touch her kid. A flight attendant came over due to the noise, and the mom started screaming about how I attacked her kid and that she wanted me off the plane. So I finally tell my side of the story, and a few passengers back me up. I then asked for the kid and his family to be kicked off the plane. Now, during this entire thing, my wife was giving me a look of pure hatred, but I didn't care and I was persistent about having the family removed. The mom was cursing me out, and the kid was still kicking my seat and screaming. After some time, they kicked the family off, and we took the flight in peace. My wife was still looking at me with hatred before saying I was a jerk for having that family kicked off and that I should have just sucked it up. After that, she hasn't really talked to me since, and it has been 3 days ever since then. So seriously, am I the jerk for getting an autistic kid and his family kicked off a flight after this kid literally attacked me while I was sitting down? What should I do? Oh no, there's no way you're the jerk here. There is never a good excuse for anybody to be attacking anyone. And the fact that the mom tried to shift this onto you somehow, in my opinion, is a giant red flag. And that is not something I would ever take lightly. So no, I think you did the right thing by kicking them off, because they truly would have made your life a living nightmare. Am I the jerk for spending money saved up for an engagement ring on a tattoo? Because right now I'm being told that I'm wasting it away, and at this point I'm not sure what to do. Here's what happened. So a bit more than a month ago, my now ex broke up with me out of the blue. I don't want to go into the details of the relationship or the breakup, but we had been talking about marriage before the breakup. We had settled on wedding bands and an engagement ring, and I am by no means well off and arguably live paycheck to paycheck, but I managed to always pay my bills, save money, and budget money for fun. And we're talking stuff like concerts, fancy dinners, trips to Renaissance festivals, conventions, rallies, random events, etc. While still doing all of this, I managed to put aside several thousands of dollars for the engagement ring that she wanted. Well, after the breakup, I decided to spend that money on myself. I bought myself my favorite bourbon, a case of my favorite cigars, and finally finished a large tattoo sleeve that I've been working on for about 2 years now. Well, the issues came when I started casually seeing a young woman who we will call Diana. I knew Diana before I met my ex, but we were more acquaintances than anything else just due to life stuff. We knew enough about each other that she was familiar with the fact that I'm not one to just casually throw money around. Since this money wasn't budgeted for anything, and let's be honest, I'm heartbroken, I've been more willing to just say screw it and spend the money. So I met up with her for dinner and drinks, and during the drinks part of the evening, she noticed my fresh ink and jokingly asked if I had gotten promoted or hit the lottery. When I explained to her where this money had come from, she got real serious and told me that spending it like that was disrespectful, that I had saved that money for something beautiful, and by wasting it, it proves that I never cared about my ex. She then ended up leaving me at the bar because she was so upset with me. Now, maybe it's the fantastic cocktails blurring my judgment, but am I the jerk for spending my money? Because right now, I'm incredibly confused. No, you are not the jerk. This is completely idiotic. I can't believe she would say that to you. For starters, you hit the nail on the head. This is literally your money. You don't owe that to anybody. If anyone's wasting this money away, it's your ex. You were saving that up for an engagement ring and she broke your heart. So in my opinion, I think you're well within your right to spend that money however you want. And anything this lady says, in my opinion, is completely idiotic. Am I the jerk for not giving my friend one of my freebies that I got for my skincare order? Because she literally just walked up and tried to take it, and I ended up having to shut her down. Here's what happened. So I ordered a bunch of stuff during a skincare sale, and they were doing this promo where if you spent over a certain amount, they gave you 3 mystery gifts. I didn't know what they were going to be, but I was excited because I've been broke and haven't really treated myself in a while. When the box came, I opened it with my friend there, and the gifts were actually kind of nice. A lip mask, a jade roller, and this little overnight cream that I've been wanting to try. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cute. And then I set it aside with the rest of my stuff. Then my friend just casually picks up the lip mask and says, oh, this is so nice. Thanks for saving this for me. When she said this, I laughed because I thought she was joking, but she was literally putting it in her purse. I said to her, wait, no, I didn't say you could have that. And she says to me, okay, chill, it's just a freebie. So I told her, yeah, it was free, but it still came from my order, and I was kind of looking forward to using it. She then got all weird and said I was being stingy, and that if you didn't pay for it, then it's not a real gift. I didn't even know how to respond to that. I'm not mad, but I just feel kind of awkward now, and I feel like maybe I overreacted about something small, but also it was mine. So seriously, am I the jerk? Because right now I don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk at all. This is so weird. What kind of friend would go up to your package and be like, oh, thanks for the freebie, I'm gonna take this now? It's like, no, that's not how this works. You go up to them and you say, hey, can I have this? Is that okay? Or something along those lines. You don't just take it and say, thanks a lot, appreciate it, gotta go. Because then it's not a freebie, that's just you stealing from your friend. So no, no, you're not the jerk because this kind of behavior is super entitled. Today, I messed up by believing a work prank on April 1st, which literally resulted in me embarrassing myself in front of everybody. Here's what happened. Okay, so at work, my boss sent out an all-staff email saying that the company was implementing a 4-day workweek experiment starting next month. We all get Fridays off with full pay as long as productivity remained high, and I nearly lost my mind with excitement. I even replied by saying, "This is amazing. You're the best boss ever." And unfortunately, I did this before reading the rest of the email, where he mentioned how this was part of a global initiative called April Fools for better work-life balance. Realizing my mistake, I tried to unsend the email, but it was way too late. People were already reacting with laughing emojis in the company group chat. To make it worse, my boss personally replied by saying, "Glad to see you're passionate about work-life balance. Unfortunately, your excitement is also part of the experiment how easily employees fall for corporate jokes." But that's not even the worst part about it. Feeling like a fool, I went home and I told my roommate about it, and he tried to comfort me by saying, "Hey, at least you weren't like my friend who fell for that fake celebrity passing hoax today." And that's when I made mess up number 2, where I immediately pulled out my phone and I was like, "Wait, who died?" And that's when my roommate stared at me and said, "Dude, that was the prank." So yeah, my entire day was one long chain of getting clowned on. So I guess the moral of the story is that you need to triple check everything on April 1st, or just literally trust no one, which would have been way better than what I did. Oh man, that seems really toxic, especially from your boss. For him to kick you while you're down like that is so messed up. So seriously, I wouldn't feel too bad about that. I think you just have an awful boss, because the way he did this was incredibly rude. Am I the jerk for not letting my roommate's boyfriend use my car, even though it made him miss a job interview that apparently was super important to him? Because right now they're blaming me for ruining his future, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 25-year-old female, and I share an apartment with my roommate who we will call Jess. We generally get along okay, but she started dating this guy who we will call Kyle a few months ago, and he's been around constantly. He doesn't live here officially, but he's here 5 to 6 nights a week. He eats our food, he uses our stuff, and never really contributes to anything. It is annoying, but I tolerate it. And I do this so that I can keep the peace. Now, I own a car which I use for work, errands, and occasional weekend trips, whereas Jess doesn't have a car, and neither does Kyle. Last week, Kyle asked me very last minute if he could borrow my car to drive to a job interview, so I asked a few questions. Where it was, how far away, how long he needed it, and it turns out that he needed it during a time that I'd already told Jess I had a doctor's appointment across town. I said to him, "I'm sorry, but I need it, and I can't change my appointment." Well, when I said that, he got super pissed off and said that I was being selfish for ruining his best shot at a better life. Jess even backed him up by saying that I could Uber to the doctor's office just this one time because his interview was more important than my checkup. Well, I said no. I'm not comfortable lending my car to someone I barely know, especially not for a time I already need it. I don't owe him that. Well, they both sulked and gave me the cold shoulder for days. And apparently Kyle missed the interview because he couldn't find a ride, and now he's blaming me for ruining his future. I feel a little bad because I could have changed my appointment if I really wanted to, but also it's my car, my schedule, and I don't think that I should have to upend my plans for someone who doesn't even live here. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because right now I don't know what to do. No, you are not the jerk at all. These people are idiots. So you mean to tell me that they want you to get an Uber when they themselves could have done that and gotten to the interview no problem? Like, is this serious right now? That is so backwards. Why not respect the original poster's wishes and get an Uber yourself, or call a taxi or something, instead of trying to hijack their car and being like, "Oh, I need this right now, thanks." Like, that would make way more sense than trying to guilt trip the original poster and being like, "Oh, you're ruining my future. You're taking away my one shot at a better life." And it's like, buddy, if this is your only chance at a better life, then you probably don't have that good of a life to begin with. So no, you're definitely not the jerk. If I was in your shoes, I would have done the same thing, because these people sound incredibly obnoxious. Am I the jerk for not paying my friend back for something that I never asked for? Because now, after she gave me something that I thought was a gift, she's now demanding that I pay her back for it, even though I didn't want it. And at this point, I'm honestly super frustrated and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened like a week ago and it is still incredibly awkward. My friend and I were at the mall just walking around, and we stopped by one of those little skincare booths. The lady was doing free hand scrubs or whatever, and I was just standing there letting her try it on me because it smelled nice. My friend, on the other hand, was super into it and was asking a million questions. I said I wasn't buying anything and even stepped away a little bit, but while I was looking at a display, the friend ended up buying 2 of the scrubs. clothes, and they were like $35 each. So I thought to myself, cool, whatever. But then as we were leaving, she handed me one of them and was like, here you go, I got one for you as well. I literally said to her, wait, what? Why? And she just shrugged and went, I know you liked it, it's no big deal. I said thanks, but also told her that she didn't have to do that. Now, fast forward to yesterday, and she texted me and was like, hey, can you send me $35 for that scrub when you get the chance? And when I saw that, I was so confused. I said to her, I thought you were just treating me with a gift. And she said to me, well, I didn't think I'd have to pay for both of them. I assumed that you would send me money later on. And I'm just thinking to myself, what are you talking about? I didn't ask for any of that. I didn't agree to it. And she even literally said it's no big deal. I told her that I'm not paying for something I didn't want in the first place. And now she's acting like I'm taking advantage of her and says that she wouldn't have bought it if she knew I wouldn't pay her back. So now I really feel weird. I didn't want it and I didn't ask for it, but I also don't want to seem ungrateful. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I don't know what to do. Oh my gosh, your friend is so stupid. Like, you literally did not even ask for any of this stupid product. You stepped away and you were not nearly as enthusiastic about it as she was. So for her to turn around and be like, I need that $35, please. That, in my opinion, is so stupid it's not even funny. So no, of course you're not the jerk here. This lady's an idiot for buying something for you that you clearly didn't want, and that, in my opinion, is something she's gonna have to deal with and not you. My ex-boyfriend keeps blowing up my phone after he did a hurtful April Fool's joke that caused me to break up with him all of a sudden, and now I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 24-year-old female, and I've been with my 27-year-old boyfriend for just over a year now. He has never been the pranking type, and we have explicitly discussed that I do not enjoy pranks or surprises. Occasionally, he will do like a little jump out from around a corner to spook me, and I usually playfully slap his arm and he laughs at me, and that's that. So this situation just completely came out of left field. Yesterday, he told me that he had something serious to discuss with me. So we sat down and he genuinely looked like he was on the verge of tears. Now for reference, this man rarely cries. So already I was holding and kissing his hand, telling him that it was okay. He shakily let out that he cheated on me with his best friend's girlfriend and that she is pregnant. When he said that, my heart stopped. Like, I think I genuinely had a panic attack. I started tearing up and I was trying not to puke. He just sat there watching me, looking all emotional and apologizing over and over again. Now, I had been cheated on before, which he was very aware of because we have had extensive conversations about some of my trust issues that we had been working through together. And this played on all of my worst fears. Once I could speak, I told him to leave and he did. Once I calmed down a bit, I called his best friend and asked if he knew about the affair and the baby. I figured he did. I just wanted to make sure that he wasn't still in the dark because he deserved to know. He replied by saying, oh my god, he didn't actually do this to you, did he? I told him not to, that this was such a bad idea. Now, I thought he was talking about the fact that my boyfriend knocked up his girlfriend, and so I said to him, you knew in advance that they were spending quality time together and told him not to do that because it would hurt me? He then broke the news that the whole thing was a prank. There was no affair and there was no baby. And at this point, I felt numb. I just laid there and contemplated our relationship. I couldn't believe that he would think to hurt me as an attempt at a joke. And honestly, I still can't. I didn't contact him at all, and he didn't contact me. I was waiting for him to show up and tell me it was all a prank, but he never did, all the way until about 6 o'clock at night. He then called me and told me to visit my backyard. And when I went out there, he had set up the table and made it look really pretty. He had takeout Italian food waiting for me and a sign that said April Fool's in the back. For a second, I was relieved that he did something so sweet and found myself clinging to it, but I still felt really hurt. He then grinned and walked up to me, kissing me and saying he couldn't believe I fell for it and that he thought I would know it was a prank. Well, I just cut to the chase and I broke up with him. The whole day was just emotional whiplash and I felt toyed with. I said that I didn't know if I could be in a relationship with someone who could lie to my face like that and still somehow think that it was funny. He then said that it was funny and that he was sorry that I didn't get it. I have just been so overwhelmed and emotional over this, and I just want to know if I am overreacting or not. He has never done something like this before, but I just do not know if I can recover from it. It's also important to know that at this point, he has left a total of 37 voicemails and probably hundreds of messages, and the number is only increasing. And at this point, I need him to stop. He won't listen to me when I say I need space from him, and I really just don't want to block him or make this messier than it needs to be because we share a friend group. I don't want to be the reason people pick sides and things fall apart. What should I do? Okay, in my opinion, this guy is the scum of the earth and he absolutely deserves to be publicly shamed for this. And I really mean that. This is such an awful thing to do to somebody. There is no good excuse. I don't care what kind of relationship you have. Saying that you cheated on somebody and you got a girl pregnant is never a good idea. Like, that is such such an awful thing to do to somebody, and he honestly does not deserve to be in a relationship. And the fact that he's trying to be like, well, this is funny, but you just don't get it, so whatever. Not to mention the 37 voicemails and the hundreds of messages. Like, this guy is clearly out of his mind. He's the same kind of person who would shove a wedding cake in your face and humiliate you in front of your entire family. Like, you do not need that crap for a second. So yeah, this guy absolutely is a piece of garbage, and I don't blame you for breaking up with him. And if your friend group suffers because of this, then good. In my opinion, I would not want to be friends with anybody who takes his side, because what he did to you is unbelievably toxic. My entitled stepmother makes my life a living nightmare, as she does something to me that truly changed everything about my life in a way that has truly made me never forgive her. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened quite a few years ago when I was just a kid, but the entitlement still stings to this day. My parents were in the middle of a nasty divorce. My dad had moved several hours drive away and was now living with the other party who caused the divorce, who's also known as my stepmother. Even though I was only a kid, I was semi-aware of what was really going on. It wasn't the first time my dad had moved out because of another woman, but it was the first time the word divorce had been mentioned. But in the past, he had always come home after a few weeks full of apologies. So when my stepmother first met me and loudly declared, "Call me mom," I was immediately in her bad books by saying no thank you. But her entitlement only got worse. While dad was in the process of moving in with my stepmother and sorting custody of me out with my mom and solicitors, he would sometimes take me out on day trips, but my stepmother would always come too, and I became her little project. I wasn't the prettiest kid, but mom had always said I should enjoy being a kid and not worry about looks for now. In contrast, my stepmother's kids, one being older than me and one younger, both wore makeup and dressed like they were going to a nightclub. And as my stepmother's little project, I had to look like I was going clubbing too. My clothes would be removed as soon as she saw me and replaced with crop tops and mini skirts. She would sit me down and force my hair into plaits with hair gel, and my original clothing would always conveniently go missing when it was home time, and my mom couldn't play that game with my new trashy clothing, because even if a single hair clip that I had been forced to wear went missing, then my dad would be calling up on my stepmother's behalf and talking about solicitors and police for theft of property. A custody arrangement was eventually worked out as me living full-time with my mom and staying with my dad for school holidays. And that first and last week was really rough on me. In all fairness, my dad did try to keep me entertained, but I wasn't used to living with other children. Combine that with also sleeping in a strange place after never being away from my mom for my entire life equals an uncomfortable situation. After a few days, I confessed privately to my dad that I really miss my mom. Now, I can see how that hurt his feelings, but I wasn't asking to go home. I was actually angling to use his mobile phone to call her up. And I had used the stepmother's landline the day before, but she had hovered, listened the entire time, and it just felt really awkward. My dad looked upset, but told me to go and eat some lunch, and off I went. And here's where my stepmother's entitled behavior really exploded into something that was completely unacceptable. Sitting next to my stepmother, I suddenly had a plate slapped down in front of me by my stepmother, and she said to me, "There." When she said that, I was so confused, but I said thank you and I started to eat. Throughout the meal, she started making snide comments in my direction, all while talking to her daughter, saying things like, "Ah, well done, sweetheart. See, you'll never disappoint me, unlike someone I know." I was a very timid kid, so I don't know where I got the burst of confidence to say something, but I said to her, "Is something wrong?" And my stepmother snapped back at me and said, "You know what? Your father is very important to me, and you've really hurt his feelings." Now, I tried to explain, but she snatched the plate from me and stalked out of the room. I followed her, still hungry, and tried to take my plate back, but she just unleashed on me. Standing in this hallway with basically a stranger screaming in my face is something I'm never going to forget. I was apparently an ungrateful brat, and she washed her hands of me. I then burst into tears and completely shrank into myself, and I just kept screaming. Now, a little reminder, I was a kid under 10 years old, and she was over 30 years old. My only crime was missing my mother. I honestly think that she should have been the adult here and had a bit of empathy. Now, for a bit of additional context, I got taken home that day several hours driving with my dad, sat in total bone-crushing silence, and it did unfortunately damage our relationship. While my stepmother was squawking the house down, I vividly remember seeing him through my waterfall of tears, standing at the top of the stairs, watching us and saying nothing. I had no idea what he said to my mom and to explain why I was home 2 days early, but I never spoke to her about it. Today is actually the first time I've spoken about it, other than to my husband when we first met, and we're swapping awful family stories. Fortunately, the only 2 occasions I've seen my stepmom in the last 2 decades since then has been at family gatherings where we've been happily ignoring each other. Now, just for clarity's sake, the custody arrangement changed after that day. I never stayed at or visited my stepmother's house ever again, and instead, it was agreed that dad would pick me up from school every other Friday, and we would stay with his parents until Sunday afternoon, where he would then drop me back with my mom. And honestly, it was always awkward from there, mostly because I was resentful that he didn't jump in and defend me against my stepmother, and I still don't know why he didn't, as he always has in the past, and he still does if he's getting sentimental, because he has said that if anyone spoke to me like that or ever hurt me, that he would beat them up. So hopefully you can see where my gaslighting problems come from. He always said that he'd be on my side, so the fact that he wasn't must mean that I really deserve it, and so on and so forth. Also, my dad and stepmother weren't married at the time of the entitlement explosion. They got married a few months later on holiday abroad, and I was invited, but my invitation arrived only a week before they were due to leave, and it was a half-hearted one at that. Dad blamed the solicitors for not delivering the message quickly enough. Even though they were divorced by then, the situation was still very hostile, and messages were passed via solicitors for about a year post-divorce. Well, my mom wasn't keen on me attending their wedding, so I just said no thank you and I didn't go. Because you know what? I would have looked out of place with these people anyways. For full disclosure though, I do still love my dad. We get along well when we chat via text messaging occasionally, but we don't see each other that much. I just don't like the majority of his choices, stepmother being a big fat one. And I'm speaking literally. My dad always used to gloat about how amazing my stepmother looked to my mom, and how her stomach was flat and her belly button was pierced, whereas my skinny mom had a saggy belly from having me. Now my stepmother, of course, reveled in his compliments. I always remember her swinging her red hair around in a really exaggerated way whenever he said how gorgeous she was. But you know what? The tables have turned though. Over the last 2 decades, my mom looks exactly the same as she did back then, but my stepmother is now rather large, and her red hair is now really red, clearly out of a box. The 2 occasions in the 2 decades that I've seen my stepmother went something like this. The first was a family party for my grandparents' 60th wedding anniversary, where in front of everyone, she called out my name and kissed my cheeks like she was thrilled to see me, and then ignored me when everyone else stopped looking. My grandparents are very proud people, and clearly didn't tell extended relatives that their son had got a divorce and remarried. For the entire day, people kept saying to me, "Oh, you're such and such's daughter. Your mom looks different. Her red hair looks interesting." And I just had great fun repeating the phrase, "Well, that's definitely not my mom. Dad left her for that one." And I never found out if my dad or stepmother heard that, because I avoided them all throughout it and I just left early. The second time was at my wedding. My stepmother was absolutely not invited, and it was just meant to be a tiny ceremony with my parents only, but my dad called a few days before and started pleading. He said to me, "Just for the ceremony, not the reception. Don't worry, you won't even know that she's there." Now, for a bit of background, my mother-in-law had already kind of taken over, and our parents' only wedding suddenly included a lot of her relatives. So I just shrugged, thinking whatever, nothing's really how I want it anyway, so why not? Well, true to his word, dad and stepmother didn't interact with anyone and left immediately afterwards, although my stepmother couldn't resist a tiny flash of entitlement by bringing her own camera. So as you can see, my stepmother is truly one of the worst people on planet Earth, and I'm so glad that I have limited interactions with that crazy woman. Wow, that is awful. I cannot stand people who act like this towards kids. Seriously, you're 10 years old and you're getting yelled at for like missing your mom? Like, are you kidding me right now? That is so dumb. It doesn't make any sense, and I really just cannot stand that. You shouldn't yell at kids like that. They're not the reason you're having problems in your marriage and all this other stuff. They are literally innocent, and your stepmom is old enough to know better than to do that. So truly, I'm so glad that you don't have any kind of like contact with her, and she plays very little role in your life, because in my opinion, you do not deserve that kind of treatment in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my girlfriend not to join me on a vacation, all because she's in a really bad financial situation? Because right now, I'm worried that I might offend her by telling her the truth, but at this point, I honestly don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I've been dating my girlfriend for almost a year, and coming up soon, I will be traveling to Las Vegas for a work event. My company is covering my round-trip international flight and expenses during the event. After that, I'm planning to use my vacation days to spend some time in Florida, and that part will be paid out of my own pocket. Now, my girlfriend wants to join me in Florida, but she is not in a good financial situation. I just received my annual bonus, which is just enough to cover my own travel plans. She doesn't have the money and suggested asking her dad to help cover the trip. But here's the thing. I know her family is struggling. They don't have a car, there's often a lack of basic groceries at home, no proper shower stall, no curtains, things like that. So it really just doesn't sit right with me that she'd ask her dad for money to go on vacation while those basic needs are unmet. I would love to travel with her someday, but I just feel like this isn't the right moment. I'm worried that she'll take it personally or think that I don't want her there, but to me, encouraging her to spend or borrow money for this trip feels irresponsible. So seriously, am I the jerk for thinking that she shouldn't come and should instead use the money for more important things? Because right now, I'm honestly not sure what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all, and honestly, I think you're doing the right thing here. Because let's think about it for a second. She's she literally doesn't have the money to go on this trip. And I totally get it. You don't want to be away from your partner, and obviously this would be a fun trip, but at the end of the day, like, she just doesn't have the money for it. So I think expressing that and saying, hey, maybe let's wait and like plan something in the future because this is just not going to work out. Like, that really would be a valuable conversation, and in my opinion, I think it's something that needs to happen because you're right, it really would be incredibly irresponsible for her to go on this trip, and I really think it would be important to say something sooner than later. Am I the jerk for refusing to be my sister's bridesmaid, all because she chose ugly friends to make herself look better? Because I think what she's doing is honestly a little too shady for me, but at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my sister is getting married, and she asked me to be one of her bridesmaids. Now, at first I was excited until I found out who the rest of the bridal party was. Every single one of them is someone she's either not that close to or has made fun of before for being awkward or not photogenic. In fact, some of her actual best friends, you know, the ones who she actually sees all the time, weren't even asked to be a bridesmaid. It felt weird, so I asked her why she picked this group. Well, she just kind of laughed and said, "You'll understand when it's your wedding. You don't want people who will outshine you in your own pictures." I then just stared at her. I then asked her, "So you picked them because you think they'll make you look better?" She then just rolled her eyes and said, "It's not that deep. I just want to feel confident that day, and I'm allowed to be a little selfish for my wedding." Well, when she said that, that rubbed me the wrong way. I told her I didn't want to be part of a bridal party built on tearing other people down, even subtly, and that she should have picked the people that she actually cares about. And now she's calling me judgmental and sensitive, and our mom says I'm being too idealistic and should just support her. But I feel like going along with it just makes me complicit. So am I at fault for not wanting to be a bridesmaid? Because right now I honestly do not know what to do. Okay, first of all, I don't think you're the jerk for backing out because this really is kind of sketchy. Why would she not want her best friends a part of her wedding party? Like, it seriously doesn't make any sense to me, and that just really is kind of backwards. Is she that insecure that she's like, okay, let me get the least good-looking people that I know and just bring them in? And from the sounds of it, it doesn't seem like these are people that she actually likes. It's people she's made fun of and people that just like, I don't know, they're kind of like the side friend that nobody like has anything to do with. So like that aspect of it, in my opinion, is super weird. So no, if I was in your shoes and I knew that information, I absolutely would back out. I would say, no, I'm not going to be a part of this, and there's no way I'm going to be complicit in that. Because what she's doing, in my opinion, is very mean, and I just don't think that you have any reason to play along with it. My mom is constantly checking my bank account and then gets angry when I tell her that I don't want her to do that. And even though I'm 18, I'm honestly at such a breaking point because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm an 18-year-old male, and I've had my own bank account since I was about 15 years old, and my mother was previously a co-holder of the account. Since I turned 18 about a half a year ago, she has no say over my account anymore since I am an adult now. Now, for some important background, when I was younger, I struggled with addiction with alcohol because I was struggling with severe depression. I made some not so good financial choices during that time, and that's something that I will admit. However, I have been thinking of therapy and rehab. I've been working a stable student job for the past half year. I'm studying nursing in college, and I've been sober and relatively happy for about 1.5 years. My addiction is what caused me to hand over all financial responsibilities regarding my money to my mother. Since I turned 18, I have full control over it again, and I have been trying to actively save. Well, my mother decided I was still untrustworthy because I buy stuff I don't need. The truth is, I buy things that make me happy, like some nice perfume or a plant for my room. My mother decided she needed to supervise me and downloaded my banking app while also forcing me to tell her the code, and now she regularly checks my account. When I ask her to stop, she gets angry and says that this is her right as a mother and that she needs to do this for me. And at this point, I'm getting fed up. My mother has been emotionally awful my entire life, and I'm at a point where all I want to do is finish my degree and get out of here. I've been thinking about changing the code to my account so she can't access it, but I know that this will come with a whole lot of garbage, which is something that I have very little energy for. My entire family is telling me how I'm in the wrong since she's my mother, while also saying that she's just looking out for me. I'm still debating on whether I should do it or not, but I'm heavily leaning towards doing it and using the aftermath as a moment to tell her and my father that they are the reason for my mental state to start with. So honestly, I feel like I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place because at this point, I don't know what to do. Okay, first and foremost, yes, you absolutely should probably change your bank account PIN because letting your mom have access to that, in my opinion, is not smart. And sure, she's just trying to look out for you, but this seems a little too intrusive. And yes, she did have access to it when you were just a kid, but now you're 18 and you're an adult, meaning that she just can't have that kind of access any longer. It's not fair for you and you're just trying to live your life, so she needs to take a step back and respect that obvious boundary. So no, I don't blame you for wanting to change your PIN number, and honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would do the exact same thing. An entitled passenger refuses to remove his shoes at the airport, forcing one of the attendants to lay down the law in such a way that honestly was so satisfying to watch. Here's what happened. So back in the early early 2010s, I had to fly to New York City each week for work, and this went on for several months. Flying out at the time, you had to remove your shoes when you were going through security, which honestly is no big deal, it just takes a few seconds. But of course, there are always those who want to argue about it. Our smaller airport often had a huge line, often with 100 or more people, because on Monday, everyone was flying to warmer climates for vacation, and there were announcements in 3 languages telling you to remove your footwear, not to mention the signs that were all over the place. Inevitably, someone would be wearing flip-flops or sandals, and when the attendant would ask them to remove their footwear, the customer would complain and say, "But it's only sandals." Now, luckily, the main attendant who was there every Monday would not put up with it. This idiot had heard several announcements and saw several signs, and had been asked directly by the attendant to remove his footwear. She would politely ask him to step aside, and then she would explain that all footwear meant all footwear, and then ask him which word he did not understand. When he would finally begrudgingly remove his sandals, she would then just thank him. Then the best part about it is that she would send him back to the end of the line, and if this guy would protest, then she would more firmly tell him to go right back to the end of the line. The offender would always shuffle off grumbling, and everyone else in line would hastily begin taking off their shoes. And you know what? I would always start an applause as well. This sort of thing happened almost every week, and it was honestly the highlight of my morning. Okay, I love this because sometimes customers are the absolute worst, especially passengers on airlines. Like either you're a normal person and you're just going along with whatever's being told of you, or you're some weirdo who's like, "No, I'm the exception. I'm the exception to this rule that everybody else follows." It's like, dude, what are you talking about? That is so weird. The fact that they want to try and act like that and act super entitled is just uncalled for, because that guy was absolutely out of line, and it's really cool to see that somebody put him in his place. Am I the jerk for not showing up to a school volleyball tournament that I was registered for without my consent? Because right now, people are being really passive-aggressive, and I just don't know what to do. So I attend a high school where student-organized sports tournaments are a recurring tradition. A few weeks ago, one of my friends took the liberty of registering a volleyball team, enlisting several of our classmates, including myself. But the catch is that I never actually agreed to participate. Now look, I'm not really that athletic. I don't play volleyball, and I have precisely zero interest in pretending otherwise. And this was obviously common knowledge. I was added to the roster regardless, allegedly as a coach. And of course, this was more symbolic than functional, because everyone, including the captain, knew that I wouldn't be playing. Then, shortly before the event, the very mastermind behind the entire endeavor switched teams and joined the school pros. This triggered a cascade of others backing out as well, with most of them declaring that they wouldn't attend school the day of the tournament. Thus, the consensus was that the team had effectively dissolved, meaning that the problem was seemingly fixed. Well, I stayed home since I was confident in this collective withdrawal. My mom knew I wouldn't be in school that day, and I was officially excused, but she wasn't aware I had never been listed as a player in the first place. I figured that no one would show any interest since the team had already seemed defunct. Well, this is where the spicy part and the plot twist comes into play. The same people who swore off attending showed up after all. But even worse, those few who had indeed remained committed from the beginning had mentally prepared for a canceled match and are now unexpectedly being pushed onto the court, unprepared and heavily betrayed. Now, as for me, I didn't show up. I wasn't needed, I wasn't willing, and honestly, I didn't want to spend the day justifying a role I'd never signed up for or agreed to taking. But now there's a whiff of passive-aggressive disappointment from the student organizers. Like I somehow violated an unwritten social contract by not magically appearing for a team that was supposed to be obsolete the day before. So truly, am I at fault for the way this all went down? Because at this point, I don't know what to do. Oh my gosh, this is so toxic it's not even funny. You mean to tell me the team captain bailed, everybody else followed along, and now people are pissed off that you, someone who didn't even sign up, didn't show up either because literally no one else was gonna be there? Like seriously, how are you being blamed for this in the slightest? That's the dumbest thing on planet Earth. You didn't agree to any of this. And I guarantee you, if anyone actually tried to approach you about this, that could be your argument straight up. You could say to them, look, I never even signed up for this. And I would literally tell them, if you want to be pissed off, go talk to the captain that bailed out at the last second. That is literally who you should be pissed off at, not me. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, because this entire situation, in my opinion, is completely insane. My mom seems to think that I owe her everything, claiming that because she gave birth to me, that means I'm indebted to her pretty much for the rest of my life. And I'm honestly so sick of hearing her talk like that. Here's what happened. Okay, so growing up, my parents constantly reminded me that I owed them for everything, from the food I ate to the fact that I existed. My mom especially had this mentality that because she gave birth to me, I was forever in debt. She literally used to say, "You're lucky I didn't leave you at the hospital." And it's like, what are you talking about right now? When I started making money from side gigs in college, instead of being proud of me, she would say, "Good, now you can start paying me back for raising you." In fact, I once bought myself a cheap secondhand phone phone after saving up for months, and when she saw this, she lost it. She said that I was selfish for not using that money to pay the electricity bill at home, when I literally just don't even live there anymore. Well, I've now come to realize that she sees parenting not as a responsibility, but as an investment that she expects returns from. So seriously, does anyone else have parents who think their job as a parent automatically makes them your lifelong creditor? Because as of right now, it seems like mine does, and it's honestly one of the worst things I've ever had to deal with. Oh man, what a terrible situation. Seriously, your mom's trying to be like, oh, you owe me for everything. I gave birth to you, I fed you. You need to give me money all the time. By the way, pay for my electricity bill. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? This is so weird. First of all, I think you know this, but it's maybe like a good time to say it, but you do not owe her a single thing. She's literally trying to use you for some kind of like income, and that in my opinion is just completely unhinged and uncalled for. Seriously, it's just weird. Like even you buying your own phone and buying something that's used somehow came off as like, oh my god, you're being so selfish. Like that altogether in my opinion is so toxic, it's just not even funny. So no, obviously you don't owe your mom anything, and I'm so sorry that you have to deal with that. And hopefully you're able to find some distance from her, because from the sounds of it, she does not sound like a good mom in the slightest. Thanks for watching. Subscribe down below if you haven't already, and also please subscribe to Am I the Genius? I think you're gonna love what they're making over there. It's a great channel and you should definitely check it out. Everything will be linked down below in the description. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.